My hands trembled as I stared at my sister-in-law Rachel's text. Just used your college fund for my dream house, $900,000 well spent. You'll never be a doctor now. The gleeful emojis mocked me through the screen. 23 years old and my entire future had just been stolen by the woman who married my brother. But Rachel didn't know one crucial detail. I'd already moved that money 3 days ago. What she'd actually done was far worse than theft. She'd just exposed herself. The morning sunlight filtered through our kitchen window, casting long shadows across the breakfast table where my mother sat, stirring her coffee with slow, deliberate movements. 2 years had passed since Dad's sudden heart attack, and Mom still made coffee for two every morning, setting his empty mug beside hers. The grief had aged her rapidly, and lately I'd noticed something more troubling than sadness in her eyes. A fog that came and went, stealing pieces of her sharp mind. "Mackenzie, dear, have you seen your father this morning?" she asked, and my heart clenched. "Mom, remember Dad passed away 2 years ago," I said, gently reaching for her hand. Her face crumpled with fresh grief, experiencing the loss anew. These moments were becoming more frequent, and I'd scheduled an appointment with a neurologist for the following week. "Of course," she whispered, then brightened artificially. "But Tyler's coming for dinner tonight with his new wife. Such a lovely girl, that Rebecca." "Rachel, Mom. Her name is Rachel." 6 months ago, my older brother Tyler had married Rachel after knowing her for barely the 4 months. She'd swept into his life like a hurricane. All perfectly styled blonde hair, designer clothes, and a smile that never quite reached her calculating green eyes. Tyler, a software engineer who'd never had much luck with women, fell hard and fast. From the moment I met Rachel, something felt off. While Tyler saw charm and sophistication, I noticed how her gaze lingered on our family photos, particularly the ones from Dad's successful cardiology practice. Her questions seemed casual enough, asking about our childhood, our father's career, how Mom was managing, but there was an inventory quality to her interest, like she was cataloging our assets. "Is Tyler bringing that prenup I suggested?" I asked Mom, already knowing the answer. "Oh, Mackenzie, don't be so cynical. Love doesn't need paperwork." But love wasn't what I saw in Rachel's eyes when she looked around our Bethesda home, mentally calculating its value. Love wasn't what I heard in her voice when she asked repeatedly about Dad's life insurance policies and investment accounts. Dad had been meticulous about our futures. He'd established a $900,000 education trust specifically for my medical school expenses. It was ironclad, or so I thought, accessible only for educational purposes and only by me. He'd created it when I was 12, the day I announced I wanted to be a doctor, just like him. "This will give you the freedom to learn without debt," he'd said, ruffing my hair. "Promise me you'll use it to help people." That promise drove me through undergraduate studies at Georgetown, through countless volunteer hours at free clinics, through MCAT preparations that left me exhausted but determined. 3 weeks ago, Johns Hopkins had accepted me into their medical program. I was set to begin in 3 months, following in Dad's footsteps. Rachel's interest in our family finances had started subtly. "Just trying to understand Tyler's family better," she'd say, asking about Mom's retirement accounts over Sunday dinner. "Making sure Mom is taken care of," she'd claim, wondering aloud about the house's mortgage status. Tyler besotted and blind praised his wife's concern for his family. "She's so thoughtful," he'd told me last week. "She even offered to help Mom organize Dad's papers. You know how overwhelming that stuff can be." The organizing sessions had started 2 weeks ago. Rachel would arrive when I was working my double shifts at the hospital, where I served as an emergency room technician to gain experience. She'd spend hours with Mom helping with paperwork, brewing tea, being the perfect daughter-in-law. "Your mother seemed confused about some bank statements today," Rachel mentioned casually during last Sunday's dinner. "Maybe we should think about getting her some help managing things." "Mom's perfectly capable of managing her affairs," I'd responded, perhaps too sharply. Rachel's smile had tightened. "Of course. I just worry. Tyler worries too, don't you, honey?" My brother had nodded automatically, reaching over to squeeze his wife's hand. We just want what's best for Mom. That evening after they'd left, I found Mom in Dad's study looking through old photo albums with tears streaming down her face. I couldn't remember our anniversary date today, she confessed. 40 years of marriage, and I couldn't remember. Rachel was so patient helping me look through all these papers to find our marriage certificate. A chill ran down my spine. What papers, Mom? Oh, just old documents, insurance forms, bank things. Rachel said it would be good to organize them. I spent that night going through Dad's carefully organized files. Everything seemed in place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Rachel's helpful organizing had a darker purpose. The next morning, I made a decision that would later save everything. I installed a small security camera in Mom's room, hidden in a bookshelf, where it could capture anyone who visited. Just for your safety, Mom, I explained, in case you need help when I'm at work. She patted my cheek with a gentle hand. You worry too much, sweetheart, just like your father. 3 days later, reviewing the camera footage on my laptop during a break at the hospital, I nearly dropped my coffee. There on the screen was Rachel, sitting at Mom's desk with someone I didn't recognize, a man in an expensive suit who was pulling documents from a briefcase. Now, Mrs. Harrison, the man was saying, if you just sign here, we can ensure your daughter-in-law can help manage your affairs during this difficult time. My mother's voice, confused and trusting. Rachel said this would help Tyler. She's such a good wife looking after everyone. Absolutely, Rachel's voice purred. And once we have power of attorney sorted, we can make sure all the family assets are properly managed, including that trust fund. Mackenzie is so young and medical school is so demanding. Wouldn't it be better to have that money more accessible? The man, clearly a lawyer of some sort, nodded enthusiastically. My thoughts exactly. A trust that size shouldn't be restricted to just education. What if there's a family emergency? Exactly, Rachel agreed. Poor Mackenzie doesn't understand how vulnerable her mother is. But we're here to help, aren't we, Mom? The footage showed my mother nodding pen in hand as Rachel guided her through signature after signature. My blood ran cold as I realized what was happening. Rachel wasn't just after money. She was systematically maneuvering to gain control of everything my parents had built using my mother's deteriorating condition as her weapon. I saved the footage immediately, making multiple copies. This was the evidence I needed. But I had to be smart about how to use it. Confronting Rachel directly would only make her more careful. I needed to protect Mom and the trust fund while gathering more evidence of Rachel's true intentions. As I prepared to leave the break room, my phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Family meeting tonight. Rachel has some concerns about Mom she wants to discuss. I stared at the message knowing this was Rachel's next move in whatever game she was playing. She didn't know about the camera. She didn't know I was onto her. Most importantly, she didn't know that I'd already begun taking steps to protect what my father had left behind. The twist of the knife was that Rachel had positioned herself perfectly. The concerned daughter-in-law, the helpful family member, the one who was there while I worked long hours. She'd crafted a narrative where I would look like the selfish daughter, too focused on my career to care for my mother. But she'd underestimated me. Dad hadn't just left me money for medical school, he'd left me his intelligence, his attention to detail, and his fierce protectiveness of family. Rachel was about to learn that sometimes the quiet ones who work double shifts and study late into the night are the ones you should fear the most. As I drove home that evening, I thought about the promise I'd made to my father about using my education to help people. I just hadn't realized that the first person I'd need to save would be my own mother. The family meeting that night unfolded exactly as I'd feared. Rachel sat in Dad's old leather chair, a deliberate choice that made my skin crawl, while Tyler stood behind her like a bodyguard. Mom sat on the sofa looking smaller than ever, her hands folded in her lap like a child awaiting punishment. "We need to talk about Mom's care," Rachel began, her voice dripping with false concern. I've been spending a lot of time with her while you're at work, Mackenzie, and I've noticed some troubling things, such as I kept my voice neutral, though my fingernails dug into my palms. Rachel produced a folder. Props for her performance. She's been confused about bills forgetting to eat, leaving the stove on. Last Tuesday, she called me thinking I was her sister who died 10 years ago. Each example was partially true, twisted just enough to paint a picture of danger and incompetence. Yes, Mom had confusion, but she'd never endangered herself. The stove incident was forgetting to turn off the warming burner after I'd already removed the pot. I think we need to consider getting her professional help, Tyler added, clearly rehearsed. Rachel found an excellent care facility. Absolutely not. The words came out sharper than intended. Mom is staying in her home. Rachel's eyes narrowed briefly before resuming their concerned expression. Mackenzie, I understand this is hard, but you're about to start medical school. You won't be able to provide the care she needs. That's months away. We have time to figure out proper in-home care. But the costs, Rachel pressed. In-home care is so expensive. If we sold the house? There it was, the real agenda pecking through her mask of concern. The house Dad built. The home Moms lived in for 30 years. I stood unable to sit still. That's not happening. Tyler stepped forward. Kenzie, be reasonable. Rachel's just trying to help. Help by putting Mom in a facility and selling her home? You're being selfish, Tyler snapped, just because you want to preserve your inheritance. This isn't about inheritance, I shot back. This is about Mom's well-being and dignity. Rachel placed a manicured hand on Tyler's arm, the peacemaker pose. Let's not argue. We all want what's best. Perhaps if Mackenzie saw the facility, understood the level of care? I said no. The room fell silent, except for the grandfather clock's ticking. Mom looked between us, confusion clear on her face. I don't want to be any trouble, she said softly. My heart broke. I knelt beside her, taking her weathered hands. You're not trouble, Mom. You're staying right here where you belong. Rachel stood abruptly. Well, if Mackenzie won't be reasonable, perhaps we need to involve professionals who can objectively assess the situation. The threat hung in the air. I knew she meant adult protective services doctors. She could manipulate lawyers who would testify to Mom's incompetence. But I also knew what she didn't, that I had footage of her manipulating Mom into signing documents. You do what you feel necessary, I said evenly, but Mom stays here. After they left, Mom and I sat in the quiet house. She seemed more lucid, patting my hand. That woman wants something, she said suddenly. Your father never trusted people who smiled too much. No, he didn't, I agreed, marveling at how clarity could pierce through confusion. Don't let her take you away from your dreams, sweetheart. Your father worked so hard for the medical school money. I won't, Mom, I promise. Over the following weeks, Rachel escalated her campaign. She became Mom's constant shadow, arriving early when I left for morning shifts, staying late into the evening. The security camera captured it all. Rachel going through filing cabinets, photographing documents, making phone calls where she discussed the estate and accessing funds. She was building a case documenting every moment of Mom's confusion while conveniently being the supportive presence. She brought neighbors over for tea, subtly showcasing Mom's memory lapses. She scheduled casual visits with her lawyer friend, getting Mom comfortable with signing papers. Mrs. Harrison just needs a little help. I heard her tell our longtime neighbor, Mrs. Chen. Poor Mackenzie is overwhelmed with work. Thank goodness Tyler and I can step in. The narrative was spreading through our neighborhood like poison. Concerned looks followed me when I retrieved the mail. Well-meaning friends asked if I needed help dealing with the situation. One evening, I came home early from a canceled shift to find Rachel in Dad's study with Mom and the lawyer. Papers covered the desk, official-looking documents with labels like Financial Power of Attorney and Trust Modification Petition. What's going on here? I demanded from the doorway. Rachel barely missed a beat. Mackenzie. We were just helping Mom understand some financial matters. Nothing to concern yourself with. Any financial matters concerning my mother concerned me greatly. I moved into the room, noting how the lawyer began gathering papers quickly. Just routine planning, he said smoothly, ensuring your mother's wishes are properly documented. My mother's wishes or yours? I looked directly at Rachel. Her facade cracked slightly. I don't appreciate your tone. I'm trying to help this family. By having secret meetings with lawyers. It's not secret. Tyler's voice came from behind me. I turned to find my brother in the doorway, arms crossed. Rachel told me about it. Someone needs to take responsibility since you're too busy playing hero at the hospital. The betrayal stung. Tyler and I had been close, once united in grief after Dad's death. Now he stood firmly in his wife's camp, blind to her manipulation. Playing hero, I'm working to gain experience for medical school, the education Dad specifically saved for. Always about you. Tyler shook his head. Maybe that money could be better used for Mom's care. The trust is specifically for education. It legally cannot be used for anything else. Rachel's smile was shark-like. Legal documents can be modified when circumstances change, especially when the trustee is no longer competent to manage affairs. There it was, the real plan. Declare Mom incompetent, gain control of her assets, then petition to dissolve the education trust for family needs. My family needs. Rachel's dream house needs. Get out, I said quietly. All of you, get out of my mother's house. The lawyer packed quickly, muttering about consultation availability. Rachel rose slowly, dramatically. This isn't over, she said. We'll do what's necessary to protect this family's interests. The only interest you have is in my family's bank accounts. Her mask slipped completely for an instant, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. Then it was back, the concerned daughter-in-law face firmly in place. Tyler, let's go. Your sister is obviously too emotional to discuss this rationally. They left, but I knew this was far from over. That night, I called the banker who'd managed Dad's accounts, William Morrison, who'd known our family for 20 years. Mackenzie? His voice was warm but worried. I've been expecting your call. There have been some inquiries about your trust. What kind of inquiries? Someone claiming to be you called yesterday, trying to get account information. Don't worry. We have strict verification protocols, but I'm concerned about the attempt. My blood ran cold. Did they say what they wanted? Access details, balance information. They became quite agitated when we refused. I thanked him and hung up, my mind racing. Rachel was getting desperate, which made her dangerous. The camera footage from the past week showed her photographing Mom's signature, repeatedly practicing it on spare paper when she thought no one was watching. I made a decision that night. Playing defense wasn't enough. I needed to protect the trust before Rachel found a way to access it. But moving $900,000 wasn't simple, especially from an education trust with strict parameters. The next morning, I called William again. I need to see you. Today, it's about protecting the trust. Come by at lunch. We'll discuss your options. As I prepared to leave for the bank, I found Mom in the kitchen, surprisingly clear-eyed. That woman was here again this morning, she said. Brought more papers. I didn't sign them. Good, Mom. Don't sign anything without me. She nodded, then looked troubled. Mackenzie, I think I need to tell you something. About Rachel. I remembered something. But before she could continue, her expression clouded, the moment of clarity passing. Never mind, dear. Have a good day at work. I left for the bank, unaware that Rachel was already 3 steps ahead, planning something that would soon have her sending that gloating text about stealing my future. She thought she was winning. She had no idea she was actually walking into a trap of her own making. William Morrison's office hadn't changed in 20 years. The same mahogany desk where Dad had signed my trust documents, the same family photos, including one of our family at my high school graduation. But William himself looked troubled as I sat across from him. Your concerns are justified, he said, sliding a folder across the desk. There have been 3 attempts to access your trust this week alone. Someone has been very interested in those funds. Can they succeed? He shook his head slowly. The trust your father created is ironclad for its intended purpose, but he paused, choosing words carefully. If your mother were declared incompetent and someone gained conservatorship over her affairs, they could petition the court to modify or dissolve the trust, claiming changed family circumstances. That's exactly what she's planning. William leaned forward. Then we need to act. I've consulted with our legal team. There's a provision your father included. Rather clever, actually. The funds can be moved to a specialized educational holding account that would be completely untouchable except for direct tuition payments to accredited medical schools. Let's do it. It's not that simple. The transfer requires specific documentation, including your acceptance letter enrollment verification, and, this is crucial, it must be done during banking hours with you present for biometric verification. The whole process takes about 3 hours. 3 hours. I'd need to find time when Rachel wouldn't notice my absence. There's something else, William continued. That woman who called claiming to be you, she knew details. Your social security number, your mother's maiden name. Someone close to you is feeding her information. The betrayal cut deep. Only family knew those details. I left the bank with a heavy heart and a plan forming, but when I arrived home that afternoon, I found our neighborhood in unusual activity. Several cars were parked outside, including one I recognized as belonging to Dr. Patricia Hensley, Mom's former colleague from the hospital where Dad had worked. Inside, I found what looked like an intervention. Rachel held court in our living room, surrounded by concerned neighbors and family friends. Mom sat in the corner, looking bewildered and small. Mackenzie. Dr. Hensley rose when she saw me. We're all here because we're worried about your mother. Worried? I looked around the room, seeing familiar faces twisted with concern. Rachel stepped forward, ever the orchestrator. I've been documenting Mom's decline. These friends deserve to know what's been happening. She produced an iPad, swiping through photos and videos. Mom wandering in the garden at night. When had that happened? Mom crying and calling for Dad, private moments that should never have been filmed. Mom struggling with simple tasks carefully edited to remove context. This is exploitation, I said, my voice shaking with anger. You're videotaping a vulnerable woman without consent. I'm documenting the need for intervention, Rachel countered smoothly. Unlike you, I don't hide from reality. Mackenzie. Mrs. Wilson from next door spoke gently. We've all noticed the changes. Rachel's just trying to help. The room murmured agreement. Rachel had played this perfectly, turning our community into unwitting allies. If you'll excuse us, I said firmly, I need to speak with my mother privately. Running away from the problem won't solve it, Rachel called after me as I guided Mom upstairs. In Mom's room, I closed the door and helped her sit on the bed. Her hands trembled. I don't like that woman, she whispered. She keeps asking about the money your father left, says Tyler needs it more than you do. Mom, did you sign anything? Any papers at all? I don't remember. Maybe she said it was for groceries. My heart sank. Who knew what Rachel had tricked her into signing? After settling Mom for a nap, I returned downstairs to find most guests had left. Only Rachel, Tyler, and Dr. Hensley remained. We need to talk about next steps, Dr. Hensley said. I can recommend a cognitive evaluation. With all due respect, I interrupted. My mother is already under the care of Dr. Benjamin at Georgetown Medical. We don't need additional opinions. Dr. Benjamin hasn't seen what we've seen, Tyler interjected. Rachel's been here every day. She knows how to manipulate footage and twist situations. I shot back. Rachel's eyes flashed. How dare you? How dare you? I stood, fury finally boiling over. You've been in this family 5 minutes and you think you can waltz in and take over. I know what you're after. Come, Mackenzie. Tyler moved between us. Apologize now. I'll apologize when she stops trying to steal Mom's life savings. The room went silent. Dr. Hensley looked uncomfortable gathering her things. I think I should go, she said quietly. This is clearly a family matter. After she left, Tyler turned on me. You're out of control. Rachel's done nothing but help. Help herself to our inheritance, you mean? Rachel's composure finally cracked. You selfish little bitch. You have no idea what I've sacrificed for this family. Was sacrificed? You've been married to my brother for 6 months. And in that time, I've done more for your mother than you have in years. By tricking her into signing papers, by documenting her worst moments, by bringing lawyers into her home. Tyler grabbed my arm. That's enough. You're acting crazy. I yanked free. Wake up, Tyler. Ask yourself why she's so interested in Mom's finances, why she needs power of attorney so badly. Because someone has to be responsible. He was shouting now. You're about to disappear into medical school for years. Who'll take care of Mom then? I will, like I always have. With what money? That precious trust fund. What happens when Mom needs full-time care? We'll use her savings, her insurance. Which won't be enough, Rachel interjected, composure restored. But you don't care about that, do you? As long as you get your medical degree? The manipulation was masterful. She'd turned my dreams into weapons against me. That evening, after they'd stormed out, I did something I'd been avoiding. Researched Rachel's past. Social media told one story, but deeper digging revealed gaps. Her Facebook only went back 2 years. Her LinkedIn showed job history, but no connections from previous positions. On a hunch, I paid for a comprehensive background check. What came back made my blood run cold. Rachel Matthews didn't exist before 3 years ago. The woman who'd married my brother was a ghost, a carefully crafted identity with just enough history to pass casual scrutiny. But who was she really? I called a college friend who worked in cybersecurity. Emma, I need a favor. Can you dig deeper into someone's background? Legal trouble. Family trouble, maybe legal soon. Emma agreed to help, warning it might take time, but time was something I didn't have. Every day, Rachel tightened her grip on my family. The next morning brought a new crisis. A letter arrived from Adult Protective Services announcing an investigation into Mom's living situation based on concerned reports from family members. I knew immediately who'd made those reports. But the worst revelation came that afternoon. Going through Dad's study, which I'd started locking, I found documents I'd never seen before. Recent documents. A will amendment dated just last week with Mom's shaky signature. The amendment named Rachel as co-executor of the estate, alongside Tyler. My hands trembled as I read further. There were trust modification papers partially completed that would expand access to include family emergency needs, as determined by the trustees. Rachel had been busier than I'd realized. I photographed everything, building my own documentation. Then I noticed something that chilled me to the bone. Practice signatures on a yellow legal pad forgotten in the drawer. Not Mom's signature being practiced. Mine. Rachel wasn't just after control of Mom's assets, she was preparing to forge my signature to impersonate me. The pieces clicked together. The calls to the bank, the detailed knowledge of my personal information. She was planning to steal my identity along with my inheritance. I had to act fast. Tomorrow, I'd move the trust funds to safety, but tonight, I had one more task. Setting up additional cameras throughout the house, I prepared for war. Rachel thought she'd won, surrounding herself with allies, building her case for Mom's incompetence. She had no idea I was about to flip the entire game board. As I worked, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Your sister-in-law is not who she claims to be. Call me. Urgent. The woman who'd invaded our lives wasn't just a gold digger. She was something far more dangerous. And tomorrow she was gonna make her big move. The one that would lead to that gloating text about stealing my future. What she didn't know was that I'd be making my move first. The morning of the transfer, I woke at 4:30, my heart already racing. Rachel typically arrived around 8, which gave me a narrow window. I told the hospital I had a family emergency, not technically a lie, and prepared everything the night before. Mom slept peacefully as I slipped past her room. I'd given her a mild sedative prescribed by her doctor for anxious nights to ensure she'd sleep through the morning's activities. The guilt gnawed at me, but I couldn't risk her inadvertently alerting Rachel. William had arranged for the bank to open early just for us. Exceptional circumstances, he'd told his staff. At 5:45, I drove through empty streets, constantly checking my mirrors for any sign of being followed. The bank's parking lot was nearly empty, just William's sedan and a security vehicle. He met me at the employee entrance, his face grave. "Are you certain about this, Mackenzie? Once we move these funds to the educational lockbox account, they cannot be accessed for any purpose other than direct medical school payments." "That's exactly what I want, what my father wanted." He nodded, leading me through marble corridors to a secure conference room. Papers covered the table. Transfer documents, verification forms, legal attestations. "We'll need to verify your identity multiple times," William explained. "Biometric scans, security questions, notarized signatures. The receiving institution, Johns Hopkins, has a specialized account for scholarship and trust funds, is already prepared." For the next 2 hours, I signed, scanned, and verified. Each step felt like building a fortress around my father's gift. William worked methodically, double-checking every detail. "Your father would be proud," he said quietly as we neared completion. "He always said you had his strategic mind. I just hope it's enough. Against someone like this, you need to be 3 steps ahead." He paused in his typing. "Mackenzie, there's something else. Yesterday afternoon, someone attempted to file paperwork claiming you were mentally incompetent and unable to manage your trust." My blood went cold. "What?" "It was rejected immediately. You're clearly competent and the filing was riddled with errors, but it shows escalation. This person is desperate." "How long until the transfer completes?" "Once I initiate it, about 30 minutes for full verification and settlement." "Do it." He began the final process, fingers flying across keyboards. I watched the screens, seeing my future transform from vulnerable funds into an educational fortress. $900,000 flowing through digital channels beyond Rachel's reaching claws. 20 minutes and my phone exploded with calls. Tyler, Rachel, numbers I didn't recognize. I silenced it, but the screen kept lighting up. "They know," I said. William glanced at the clock. 10 more minutes. The transfer is irrevocable once completed. Those were the longest 10 minutes of my life. My phone buzzed continuously. Texts flooded in. "Tyler, where are you? Rachel's worried about Mom." "Rachel, we need to talk. Now." Unknown number. "This is Dr. Hensley. Please call immediately regarding your mother." 5 minutes left. William's phone began ringing. "Morrison," he answered professionally. His face darkened as he listened. "I see. No, I cannot discuss client business. I understand your concern, but, ma'am, please don't raise your voice." He hung up. "Your sister-in-law claims there's been fraud." 2 minutes, I whispered, watching the progress bar. The bank's main line began ringing. William ignored it. The security guard appeared at the door, looking concerned. "Mr. Morrison, there's a woman in the lobby demanding to see you. Says it's about theft of family funds." "Tell her to schedule an appointment," William replied calmly. 1 minute. My phone rang again. This time I saw it was from our home number. "Mom." Against my better judgment, I answered. "Mackenzie?" Mom's voice was frightened. "There are people here. They're going through your father's study. That woman is screaming about missing money." "Mom, are you safe?" I locked myself in the bathroom. "Should I call the police?" "Yes, call 911 now." The progress bar hit 100%. A green confirmation filled the screen. Transfer complete. Funds secured in educational trust account. It's done, William said. The funds are protected. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by rage. Rachel was terrorizing my mother. I have to go, I said, gathering the confirmation documents. Mackenzie, William called after me. Be careful. Desperate people do dangerous things. I drove home at exactly the speed limit, my mind racing. Every red light felt eternal. When I finally turned onto our street, I saw chaos. 2 police cars were parked outside. Neighbors stood on their lawns watching. I found Mom on the front porch with Officer Martinez, whom we'd known for years. She was wrapped in a blanket, looking fragile but unharmed. Mom, I rushed to her. Are you okay? I'm fine, dear, just shaken. She clutched my hand. That woman went mad, screaming about theft, throwing papers everywhere. Where is she now? Officer Martinez answered. We asked her to leave. Your brother took her home to calm down. Inside, Dad's study looked like a tornado had hit. Files scattered everywhere, drawers yanked open, papers strewn across the floor. Rachel had been searching for something. Probably account numbers, passwords, anything to access the funds she'd thought were hers. She kept saying we stole from her, Mom said quietly. How can we steal our own money? That afternoon, the full scope of Rachel's plan began emerging. Emma, my cybersecurity friend, had uncovered disturbing information. Rachel Matthews was a carefully constructed identity. The real name was Victoria Lawson, and she had a history. 3 previous marriages, Emma explained over encrypted phone, all to men with family money, all ended with financial disputes. She's been sued twice for fraud, but settled out of court. Why isn't she in prison? She's smart, never takes enough to trigger major investigations, always positions herself as the victim. Changes, identities moves, state starts over. And now she's after us. Mackenzie, be careful. The last husband, he died. Car accident, but there were questions. My hand trembled as I ended the call. We weren't just dealing with a gold digger. This was a professional predator. That evening, as I cleaned Dad's study with Mom, I found something Rachel had dropped in her rage. A business card for a lawyer specializing in trust dissolution and estate manipulation. On the back, in her handwriting, Wednesday, 2 p.m., bring signed papers. I photographed it, adding to my growing evidence file. Rachel might have lost this battle, but she wasn't giving up the war. At 11 that night, the gloating text arrived. The one that would change everything, because in her fury over the failed transfer, Rachel had made a crucial mistake. She'd revealed her hand admitted to attempted theft and created evidence of her true intentions. Just used your college fund for my dream house, $900,000 well spent. You'll never be a doctor now. I stared at the message, a grim smile forming. She thought she'd won something. She had no idea she'd just confessed to a crime. The trust money was safe. Mom was protected for now, but Rachel's text revealed she'd done something else, made some other move she thought was victorious. Tomorrow, I'd find out what. Tonight, I prepared for the storm that was coming, because wounded predators are the most dangerous, and Rachel had just been denied her prey. The war for my family's future had truly begun. The next morning arrived with deceptive calm. I was in the middle of my emergency room shift when Rachel's gloating text burned through my phone screen. Dr. Reynolds noticed my sudden stillness as I stood frozen in the supply closet staring at those devastating words. Mackenzie, you okay? She peered around the door, concern etching her features. My voice cracked perfectly. I'd learned that sometimes the best acting comes from channeling real emotions into different contexts. The rage I felt toward Rachel transformed into visible devastation. My college fund, it's gone. What? Dr. Reynolds moved closer, maternal instinct kicking in. I showed her the text, watching her face shift from confusion to outrage. Within minutes, word spread through the emergency department. Nurses who'd encouraged my medical school dreams Doctors who'd written recommendation letters, technicians who'd covered shifts so I could study. They all knew within the hour. That's theft. Nancy, our charge nurse slammed her coffee mug down. Your father left that money specifically for your education. How is this even possible? Dr. Chen asked during our brief morning huddle. Aren't trusts protected? I let my shoulders slump, perfecting the image of dreams destroyed. She found a way. My sister-in-law. She's been planning this. You need a lawyer, someone suggested. Police, another added. I don't even know where to start, I whispered, allowing tears to pool without falling, visible pain without melodrama. The department rallied around me. Someone brought coffee, another offered their cousin's legal services. Dr. Reynolds even suggested a crowdfunding campaign. Their genuine outrage and sympathy felt like armor against what was coming. Take the rest of your shift off, Dr. Reynolds decided. You need to deal with this. I protested weakly, then accepted. As I gathered my things, I heard the whispers following me, variations of poor Mackenzie and how could family do that? The story was spreading exactly as I'd hoped. Driving home, I checked social media. Rachel hadn't just sent that text, she'd begun a full campaign. Her Instagram blazed with success. Photos of a massive colonial house, gleaming marble countertops, a kitchen that could grace a magazine cover. Dreams do come true, her caption gushed. When you marry the right man, anything is possible. Blessed new beginnings. Family first. The comments were telling. Her friends, if they were real friends, congratulated her, but I noticed something interesting. Tyler hadn't liked or commented on any of it. My brother, who usually supported her every move, was conspicuously silent. I pulled into our driveway to find his car already there. Strange for a Wednesday afternoon. Inside, I heard voices from the living room. Tyler's low rumble and Mom's confused responses. But where did the money come from? Mom was asking as I entered. Tyler sat on the couch, his face a study in discomfort. Mom perched on her chair, wringing her hands. They both looked up when I appeared. Kenzie. Tyler started, then stopped. He looked older somehow, stress lines carving new paths on his face. I got Rachel's text, I said, simply letting exhaustion color my voice. About that? $900,000, Tyler. My entire future. He flinched. It's not... She didn't mean what? To steal my education, to brag about it. Mom's face crumpled. I don't understand. How did she get Mackenzie's school money? Tyler's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. This was interesting. He clearly didn't have the full story either. You should probably ask your wife that, I said, sinking into Dad's chair, since she's the one posting pictures of the house she bought with it. That's not... Tyler rubbed his face. The house isn't bought yet. It's just under contract. With my money as down payment... No, I mean, I don't know. Rachel handles our finances. How convenient. Mom stood shakily. I need to lie down. This is all too much. After helping her upstairs, I returned to find Tyler still sitting, staring at his phone. Rachel's Instagram blazed from the screen. Oh, she said it was from her investments, he mumbled. Said she'd been saving, that her portfolio had done well. And you believed that... Why wouldn't I... But doubt threaded through his voice. Maybe because she's been obsessed with our family's finances since day one, because she's been trying to get power of attorney over Mom. She's trying to help... Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. She sent me a text admitting to stealing my college fund. That's theft, Tyler. Criminal theft. His phone rang. Rachel's ringtone. He stared at it, but didn't answer. Aren't you going to get that? I need to think. The phone stopped, then immediately started again. This time he answered, putting it on speaker, without, I think, meaning to. Tyler. Where are you? Rachel's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. We need to talk about the house. I'm at Mom's. Silence. Then, is she there? Kenzie, yeah. Don't believe anything she says. She's trying to turn you against me. Rachel, did you take money from Kenzie's trust? Of course not. How could I? It's locked up tight. Her laugh was forced. She's being dramatic as usual, probably trying to get sympathy before she admits she spent it herself. Then why did you text her saying you used it for the house? Another pause. That was a joke. Obviously, I was frustrated with her constant accusations, so I made a sarcastic comment. She's twisting everything as usual. Tyler's face was a battlefield of wanting to believe her and knowing something was wrong. The house. Rachel, where did we get $900,000 for a house? I told you my investments. Show me. What? Show me the investment accounts, the returns, the statements. I can't believe you're doubting me, her voice rose to near shriek. After everything I've done for your family. Just show me the statements, Rachel. The line went dead. Tyler stared at his phone, then at me. She hung up. Shocking. We sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, he asked, Is your college fund really gone? Oh, check for yourself. I pulled out my phone, showing him my banking app. The trust account showed exactly what it should. Zero accessible balance because everything was locked in the educational account. But Tyler didn't know about that protection. His face went white. Oh my God. Yeah. But how the trust was protected? Dad made sure. I let him work through it, watching realization dawn. His wife, the woman he'd defended against all concerns, had somehow accessed protected funds. The only question in his mind was how. That evening, Tyler stayed for dinner. The first time without Rachel in months. Mom seemed more lucid, with just the three of us even managing to cook her famous pot roast. We didn't talk about the money maintaining a fragile peace. Around 7, Tyler's phone buzzed with a text. He read it, his expression darkening. She says there's been a banking error, that the down payment didn't go through. The sellers are threatening to cancel the contract. I kept my face neutral. That's unfortunate. She wants me to come home to help fix it. Are you going? He pushed his pot roast around his plate. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe your sister, Mom said suddenly, her voice clear and strong. Your father always said Mackenzie had the best instincts about people. Tyler looked between us, torn. His phone buzzed again and again. She's panicking, he said unnecessarily. Let her panic, I said quietly. Maybe panic will bring out truth. He left an hour later, but not before hugging me. The first real hug we'd shared in months. I'm sorry, he whispered, for not listening, for choosing her side. Just be careful, I whispered back. And Tyler, maybe check whose name is actually on that house contract. After he left, I helped Mom to bed, then settled in Dad's study to plan my next move. Rachel's house of cards was wobbling, but it hadn't fallen yet. Her desperation would make her dangerous. My phone lit up with messages from colleagues, friends, even distant relatives who'd heard about the theft. The narrative was spreading exactly as Rachel had intended, except she didn't realize I was the one controlling it now. Around midnight, a new text arrived from an unknown number. Your sister-in-law is a fraud. I can prove it. Meet me tomorrow. No name, no identification, but I had a feeling I knew who it was. One of Victoria Lawson's previous victims had found me. Rachel's past was about to catch up with her present. I saved the message and prepared for bed, knowing tomorrow would bring revelations. In her fury over the failed money transfer, Rachel had exposed herself. The text about stealing my college fund, the bragging about the house, the panic when the payment failed. All of it was creating a trail of evidence. She thought she'd won by sending that gloating text. Instead, she'd handed me the very weapon I needed to bring her down. The false victory was about to become her very real defeat. Thursday morning brought controlled chaos to the Harrison household. I'd taken another day off work, sensing that Rachel's desperation would escalate quickly. I wasn't wrong. By 9 a.m., she was at our door, Tyler nowhere in sight. We need to talk, she announced, pushing past me into the foyer. Gone was the polished daughter-in-law facade. Her usually perfect hair hung limp, makeup smeared under her eyes, designer clothes, replaced with wrinkled yoga pants. About how you stole my education fund? Stop saying that. She whirled around, green eyes wild. You know I didn't steal anything. The transfer was legitimate. Family emergency funds? What emergency? Your mother's deteriorating condition, future care costs. The words came out practiced but hollow. Funny how the emergency fund went straight to a dream house. Her jaw clenched. That was an investment for the family's future. Under whose name? Silence. The house, Rachel, whose name is on the contract. Mine, she admitted finally, but only because Tyler's credit isn't perfect. It's still our house. Just like my college fund was our money. She stepped closer and I caught a whiff of stale wine on her breath. You need to fix this. Yes, fix what? The transfer. The bank says the funds never arrived. The sellers are threatening to sue. I could lose everything. You mean you could lose everything you tried to steal? Her hand moved so fast I barely saw it coming. The slap cracked across my cheek, snapping my head sideways. We both froze, shocked. I'm sorry, she said quickly, but her eyes remained hard. I didn't mean... Just fix it, Mackenzie. Access the trust. Transfer the money properly this time. I can't access funds that don't exist. Stop lying. Her voice rose to a shriek. The money has to be somewhere. Trust funds don't just disappear. Apparently they do when sister-in-laws get creative with family emergency clauses. She grabbed my shoulders, shaking me. Where is it? What did you do? Get your hands off me. I kept my voice level, though my cheek burned. Not until you tell me. Charles, Mom's voice came from the top of the stairs. Why are you hurting my daughter? Rachel released me, spinning to face Mom. I'm not... We were just talking. I saw you hit her and shake her. Mom descended slowly, gripping the banister. I may be forgetful, but I'm not blind. Mom, it's okay, I said, though I was already calculating how to use this moment. It's not okay. Mom reached the bottom step, drawing herself up with surprising dignity. Get out of my house, Rachel. Don't come back. You can't ban me. I'm family. No, Mom said firmly. You're a thief who hits my daughter. Out. Now. Rachel's face cycled through emotions. Rage, disbelief, calculation. Finally, she grabbed her purse. This isn't over. Tyler will hear about this. Everyone will. Good, I said quietly. Tell them everything. Start with how you hit me for refusing to give you more money to steal. She slammed out, leaving Mom and me in echoing silence. Are you all right, sweetheart? Mom touched my reddened cheek gently. I'm fine, thank you for standing up for me. I may not always remember breakfast, but I remember who loves us and who doesn't. She patted my hand. That woman doesn't love anyone but herself. I settled Mom with tea and her morning shows, then checked my phone. 17 missed calls from Tyler, 3 voicemails from Rachel, and 1 text from the unknown number, Starbucks on Wisconsin Avenue, 2 p.m. Look for the woman in the red scarf. The morning crawled by. I documented my bruised cheek with photos, emailed them to myself with a detailed account of the assault. Building evidence, always building evidence. Around noon, Tyler arrived looking haggard. Rachel says you attacked her. Really? I turned my face, showing the bruise. Who attacked? Whom? He stared at the mark. She hit you. Mom saw it happen. Ask her. He collapsed onto the couch. I don't know what's real anymore. She swears the money was legally hers. Says you're trying to destroy our marriage out of jealousy. Tyler, I'm not jealous. I'm trying to protect our family. From my wife. From a woman who might not be who she claims. His phone rang. Rachel again. This time he answered on speaker. What? Baby, please, come home. We need to strategize. The sellers gave us 24 hours to produce the funds or they're canceling and keeping the deposit. What deposit? I thought the transfer failed. Pause. I I used our savings for the deposit. Just temporarily, once Mackenzie stops being vindictive and releases the trust. How much of our savings? All of it. But baby, it's an investment. Tyler hung up. He stared at nothing processing. She drained our joint account. $40,000. Everything I'd saved. I'm sorry. Are you... He looked at me with hollow eyes. Or is this what you wanted to be right about her? I wanted to be wrong. God, Tyler, I wanted her to be real, to make you happy. She did make me happy, he whispered, until she didn't. We sat in painful silence until he asked, the trust money, is it really gone? I chose my words carefully. It's not accessible to Rachel or anyone else who wants to steal it. So it exists, in a form that can only be used for medical school, as Dad intended. Understanding dawned on his face. You protected it. You knew what she was planning, and you protected it. I protected all of us. He left soon after shoulders bent with the weight of shattered illusions. I felt for him, but there was no time for sympathy. I had an appointment with Rachel's past. The Starbucks on Wisconsin Avenue hummed with afternoon energy. I spotted the red scarf immediately, wrapped around the neck of an elegant woman in her 50s, sitting alone in the corner. Mackenzie, she asked as I approached. Yes. I'm Diane Crawford. Please sit. She waited until I was settled before continuing. I believe you've met my former daughter-in-law, though she went by Victoria then. Rachel. She calls herself Rachel Matthews now. This year's model, Diane said bitterly. She destroyed my son financially and emotionally. When I heard she was operating in D.C. again, I had to warn her new victims. Again. Diane pulled out a folder thick with documents. Victoria, Rachel, has done this at least 4 times that I know of. Always the same pattern. Quick romance with a man from a wealthy family, insertion into family finances, manipulation of vulnerable relatives. Then the money disappears. I flipped through the papers. Court documents, bank records, police reports. A clear pattern of predation. My son lost his house, his business, his confidence. Diane continued. She convinced him to take out loans against everything promised to triple the money with her connections. Instead, she disappeared with $700,000. Why isn't she in prison? Because she's clever, always positions herself as having authorization, gets signatures on documents, creates plausible explanations. By the time victims realize the scope, she's gone. She can't disappear this time. She's married to my brother. Diane's laugh was bitter. Marriage means nothing to her. Check Maryland records. She's been married 5 times, only divorced twice. Which means she's still legally married to husband number 3. Your brother's marriage is invalid. The revelation hit like cold water. Everything Rachel had built with Tyler was founded on lies, including the marriage itself. I have contacts, Diane offered. A prosecutor in Virginia who's been tracking her. Private investigators who've documented her patterns. We can help. Why didn't you come forward sooner? We tried, but she's smart about choosing victims. Families with dynamics she can exploit. Previous attempts to warn people were dismissed as bitter ex-relatives causing trouble. But now I have evidence. The fake identity, the forged signatures, the assault this morning. She assaulted you, Diane leaned forward. That's new. She's never been physically violent before. Desperation, maybe. The house deal is falling apart. Then she's dangerous. When cornered, people like Victoria, Rachel, can escalate dramatically. We spent another hour sharing information. Diane provided copies of everything, including contact information for Rachel's other victims, a network of destroyed families, all connected by one woman's greed. As I prepared to leave, Diane grabbed my hand. Be careful. My son, he thought about ending things after she destroyed him. The psychological damage these people inflict is real. I'll be careful. And Diane, thank you. You may have just saved my family. Driving home, my phone exploded with notifications. Rachel had gone nuclear on social media, posting a tear-filled video about being victimized by her jealous sister-in-law. The comments were divided, some supporting her, others questioning the story's inconsistencies. But one comment stopped me cold from Tyler. "My wife is a fraud. Our marriage is invalid. She's been married 3 times before and never divorced one of them. I'm filing for annulment immediately." The unraveling had begun in earnest. At home, I found Mom sitting with our family lawyer, Mr. Peterson, whom she'd apparently called herself during a moment of clarity. Mackenzie," he greeted me. "Your mother was just explaining the situation. Quite concerning." "That's one word for it." "I've begun paperwork for a restraining order," he said. "The assault this morning combined with the attempted financial fraud should be sufficient grounds." My phone rang. Tyler. "I'm at the police station," he said without preamble, "filing charges against Rachel for bigamy and fraud. Can you bring those documents you mentioned?" "Which documents?" "All of them. Everything. It's time to end this." I looked at the folder Diane had given me, at the photos of my bruised cheek, at the text messages admitting to theft. Evidence accumulated over weeks of careful planning. "I'll be right there," I said. Rachel's house of cards hadn't just wobbled. It was collapsing entirely, and she had no one to blame but herself. The gloating text that started this day had become the confession that would end her reign of manipulation. But wounded animals are most dangerous when cornered, and Rachel still had one more devastating move to make. The police station on Friday morning felt like a culmination and a beginning. Tyler sat across from Detective Morrison, no relation to our banker, his face a mask of controlled fury as he provided statement after statement. I'd brought 3 boxes of evidence. Papers from Diane's screenshots, from my phone security footage, from our house cameras. "Mrs. Matthews, or rather Ms. Lawson, has quite a history," Detective Morrison said, reviewing the files. 3 active marriages, 2 in Maryland alone. That's felony bigamy. "For 4 marriages," I corrected, sliding Diane's documentation across the desk. "She married someone in Nevada 6 years ago. Never divorced him either." Tyler flinched at each revelation. "How did I not see this?" "Con artists are professional manipulators," the detective said, not unkindly. "They choose victims, carefully exploit emotional vulnerabilities. You're not the first accomplished person to be deceived." We spent hours building the case: financial fraud, identity theft, bigamy, assault. The charges stacked like building blocks, each supported by meticulous documentation. "Where is Ms. Lawson now?" Detective Morrison asked. "Last I knew, at the house they rented," Tyler said. "Our house. The one she put in her name only." Bitterness dripped from every word. "We'll send units to pick her up. With flight risk this high, we'll request no bail." As we prepared to leave, Detective Morrison pulled me aside. "Your documentation is extraordinarily thorough, almost like you knew this was coming." "I learned from my father to protect what matters," I said simply. "He always said hope for the best, but prepare for the worst." Smart man. Outside the station, Tyler stood in the weak December sunshine, looking lost. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "For what you tried to warn me. Everyone tried," he laughed bitterly. "Even Mom in her confused moments saw through Rachel. Only I was blind." Love makes us blind sometimes. Was it love? Or was I just desperate not to be alone? He scrubbed his face with his hands. She made me feel special, successful, chosen. Now I realized she was just choosing my bank account. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the writing style immediately. "You think you've won? Check your medical school application status. Love, your real sister-in-law." My blood went cold. I fumbled for my laptop, logging into the Johns Hopkins admissions portal. My hands shook as I navigated to my application status. Withdrawn. The word blazed across the screen like a death sentence. Withdrawn. My application to medical school, submitted months ago, accepted with celebration. now showing as voluntarily withdrawn by the applicant. No, I whispered. No. What's wrong? Tyler peered over my shoulder, then cursed. How? I clicked frantically through the portal, finding the withdrawal confirmation, submitted yesterday at 3:47 p.m., when I was meeting with Diane. The IP address showed it came from our home network. The security question answers were all correct. Even the essay explaining the withdrawal sounded like me discussing a family emergency requiring my full attention and reassessing my career goals. She was in the house, I said numbly. She must have used Mom's key accessed my computer. Your passwords were saved in my browser. Stupid, careless mistake. I'd gotten comfortable in my own home, never imagining someone would physically access my computer. Tyler grabbed my phone, dialing the admissions office. He put it on speaker as it rang. Johns Hopkins School of Medicine admissions office. This is Mackenzie Harrison, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. There's been a mistake with my application. Someone fraudulently withdrew it. I'm sorry, can you verify your application ID? I rattled off the numbers I'd memorized months ago. Yes, Ms. Harrison, I show your withdrawal was processed yesterday. As stated in our policies, withdrawals after December 1st are final. We've already offered your seat to someone on the wait list. But I didn't withdraw. Someone broke into my house and... I'm very sorry, but the withdrawal was submitted with all correct credentials from your registered IP address. Without a police report filed within 24 hours of the incident, we cannot reverse the decision. I'm filing a police report right now. The incident would have had to be reported yesterday, ma'am. These policies exist to prevent exactly this kind of post-withdrawal regret claim. The call ended with hollow apologies and rigid policies. My dream, protected so carefully from financial theft, had been destroyed with a few keystrokes. We're going back to the station, Tyler said grimly. This is another charge against her. It doesn't matter, I said, tears finally falling. My spot is gone. 3 years of applications, interviews waiting. Gone. Other schools? The application cycle is closed. I'd have to wait another full year, reapply everywhere. The weight of it crushed me. She won. Even if she goes to prison, she won. We returned to the detective who added the new charges to Rachel's growing list. But I felt hollow. What good was justice if my future was destroyed? Back home, we found Mom in the living room with someone unexpected. William Morrison from the bank. I came as soon as I heard, he said, Mackenzie, I'm so sorry about the medical school situation. You heard already. Small community, word travels. He pulled out a folder. But I may have something that helps. Your father, in his wisdom, included an unusual clause in your trust. Are you familiar with the educational disruption provision? I shook my head, too drained to hope. If your medical education is delayed or disrupted due to criminal actions against you, the trust can disburse up to $50,000 annually for living expenses while you reapply and wait. That doesn't get me back my spot at Johns Hopkins. No, he agreed, but it means you can survive financially while fighting to rebuild. Your father knew the medical profession was cutthroat. He wanted to ensure temporary setbacks didn't become permanent defeats. It wasn't much, but it was something. A lifeline in the drowning pool of despair. That evening, we ordered Chinese food and sat around the kitchen table. Just family, no pretense. Mom picked at her lo mein, surprisingly lucid. I remember when you decided to be a doctor, she said suddenly. You were 12. Your goldfish died and you cried for hours, not because you lost a pet, but because you couldn't save it. Mr. Bubbles, I said, managing a weak smile. Your father said that's when he knew. The desire to heal, to save, to fix, it was in your bones. She reached over, squeezing my hand. This Rachel person can delay your journey. She can't change your destination. Tyler's phone rang. He glanced at it, then answered warily. Hello? His face went through several expressions before he handed it to me. "It's for you. Says her name is Patricia Hendricks." I took the phone cautiously. "This is Mackenzie." "Ms. Harrison, I'm the federal prosecutor Diane Crawford mentioned. I've been building a RICO case against Victoria Lawson for 2 years. Your documentation might be the final piece we need." RICO as in racketeering. Ms. Lawson isn't a solo operator. She's part of a network. People who specialize in marrying into wealth, then systematically draining assets. We've identified at least 12 members operating across state lines. My mind reeled. A network of marriage fraudsters. Organized, trained, and mutually supportive. They share tactics, create false identities for each other, even provide alibis. Your detailed evidence could break the entire ring open. What do you need from me? Everything. Every document, every recording, every text. And Ms. Harrison, I heard about Johns Hopkins. I have contacts there. If we can prove criminal interference with your education, there might be grounds for appeal. A spark of hope flickered. Really? No promises. But Johns Hopkins takes criminal targeting of their students seriously. It reflects badly on their security protocols if accepted students can be so easily sabotaged. After she hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Rachel, Victoria, wasn't just a lone predator. She was part of something bigger, more sinister. And in trying to destroy my family, she might have exposed an entire criminal organization. Tyler broke the silence. A network. She was part of a network. Which means she had training, support, resources. I thought about how perfectly she'd played her role, how systematically she'd worked. This wasn't random. We were targeted. But why us? Mom spoke up, her voice steady. Your father's obituary. We turned to her. It mentioned his practice, his success, that he left behind 2 children and a widow. It mentioned the medical legacy he hoped Mackenzie would continue. She looked at us with clear eyes. We advertised our vulnerabilities to anyone hunting for them. The revelation sat heavy among us. Dad's death notice meant to honor his life had instead painted a target on his family. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number, but this time I recognized the prosecutor's area code. "Ms. Harrison, one more thing. We've been monitoring Ms. Lawson's communications. She knows we're closing in. Our informants suggest she's planning something desperate. Please be extremely careful." What kind of desperate? The kind that ends badly for everyone involved. Don't go anywhere alone. Consider staying elsewhere for a few nights. As if summoned by the warning, a car screeched into our driveway. Through the window, we saw Rachel stumble out disheveled and wild-eyed. She had something in her hand, papers clutched like weapons. "Call 911. I told Tyler, but he was already dialing. Rachel staggered to our door, pounding on it. "I know you're in there. We need to talk. I have something you'll want to see." "Police are coming," Tyler called through the door. "Leave now." "Not until she sees these." Rachel's voice was unhinged, desperate. "Mackenzie, look what I found in Tyler's old emails." Despite every instinct screaming danger, curiosity won. "What emails?" "The ones about you, about what really happened to your father." My blood froze. Tyler looked confused, but something cold settled in my stomach. "You're lying," I said, but my voice shook. Am I ask Tyler about the life insurance policy? Ask him about the argument 2 days before your dad died. Ask him why he needed money so badly he begged your father for an advance on his inheritance. Tyler. I turned to my brother who'd gone pale. "She's twisting things," he said quickly. "Dad and I argued yes, but what?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Rachel's laughter through the door was maniacal. "See, everyone has secrets, Mackenzie. Everyone has things they'd rather forget. So here's my offer. Restore my access to the trust, or I release everything I found. Your brother's emails, the private investigator's report about your father's death, the questions that were never answered." "You're lying," Tyler said, but desperation threaded through his voice. Should I read the email where you told your friend that Dad's death was convenient timing for your debts? The sirens in the distance grew louder, but not fast enough. Our family stood on the precipice of either Rachel's destruction or our own dark truths being dragged into light. 5 minutes, Rachel called. Then I post everything online. Your choice, Mackenzie. Your money or your family's reputation. I looked at Tyler, at Mom, at the life we'd built on carefully maintained illusions. Rachel had found the one weapon that might actually work. The truth we'd all agreed to bury with Dad. The police were 3 minutes away. Rachel's deadline was 5, and the secret that could destroy us all hung in the balance wielded by a cornered predator with nothing left to lose. Everyone in the living room, I commanded, my voice steadier than my hands. Now. Tyler started to protest, but I cut him off. She wants a confrontation, she'll get one, but on our terms. I unlocked the front door as the sirens grew louder. Rachel stood on our porch, mascara streaking down her face, designer clothes wrinkled and stained. In her hands, she clutched a manila folder like a lifeline. 5 minutes, I said. That's all you get before the police arrive. She pushed past me, stumbling slightly. The smell of alcohol wafted from her, liquid courage for whatever desperate play this was. In the living room, Mom sat ramrod straight, the fog of confusion replaced by sharp attention. Tyler stood by the fireplace, his knuckles white as he gripped the mantel. I positioned myself between them and Rachel, who swayed on her feet but kept that folder raised like a shield. Here's what's going to happen. She began, trying for her old commanding tone but achieving only shrill desperation. You're going to transfer the $900,000 to my account. Then you're going to tell the police this was all a misunderstanding. Or I kept my voice level. Or I destroy this family with the truth. She waved the folder. Every dirty secret, every buried scandal. You mean the emails you stole by breaking into our house? I pulled out my phone, showing it was recording. Please continue confessing to more crimes. Her face twisted. You think you're so smart, but you don't know what I know. Then enlighten us. Rachel opened the folder with shaking hands, pulling out printed emails. Tyler Harrison to Derek Shen, November 15th, 2 years ago. Quote, Dad's being unreasonable about the loan, doesn't understand how badly I need this. Sometimes I think everyone would be better off if he just had another heart attack. Tyler made a strangled sound. Mom gasped. That's taken completely out of context, Tyler said. I was angry, venting to a friend. Were you also venting when you increased his life insurance policy 2 months before he died? Rachel pulled out more papers. Or when you Googled signs of heart attack and how to induce cardiac arrest from your work computer? Because Dad was having chest pains, Tyler exploded. I was trying to understand his condition. Really? Then why delete the search history? Why lie to the insurance investigator about it? I stepped forward. Because grief makes people do strange things. Because he felt guilty about fighting with Dad before he died. Because the insurance company was looking for any reason not to pay out. I locked eyes with Rachel. But you know what, none of that matters now. Doesn't it? She turned to Mom. Don't you want to know if your son... Stop! Mom's voice cut through the room like a blade. I know exactly what my son did and didn't do. We all turned to her. You think I'm just a confused old woman, Mom continued, steel in her voice. But I remember that night perfectly. Every detail burned into my memory. How Tyler called the ambulance before I even realized something was wrong. How he performed CPR until the paramedics arrived, breaking 2 of your father's ribs trying to save him. How he collapsed afterwards, sobbing that he'd failed. Her gaze fixed on Rachel with laser focus. My son may have said terrible things in anger. He may have made mistakes, but he loved his father and he tried to save him. That's the truth that matters. Rachel's face crumbled as her weapon dissolved, but she wasn't done. Fine, but there's more. Mackenzie's perfect reputation. I have photos of her at parties drinking underage. Posts about cheating on her MCATs. I joking about wanting to cheat because the test was hard? I interrupted. Like every pre-med student ever. Is that really your ammunition? I have witnesses who will say you were unstable, unfit for medical school. Witnesses you've paid or blackmailed. I pulled out Diane Crawford's folder. Should we discuss your witnesses, Victoria, like the 3 ex-husbands you're still married to, or the families you've destroyed across 5 states? Her face went white. How do you... Patricia Hendricks sends her regards. I let that sink in. The federal prosecutor who's been building a RICO case against you and your network. Did you really think you were untouchable? You're bluffing. I showed her my phone, a text from Patricia, clearly visible units en route. Have her keep talking. The sirens were right outside now. Rachel looked around wildly, realizing the trap. You set me up. No, you set yourself up. Every crime you committed, every family you destroyed, every lie you told, it all led here. I stepped closer. But I'll give you one chance. Tell us who else is in your network. Help the FBI take them down, and maybe Patricia will recommend leniency. I can't. They'll kill me. They'll kill you anyway once they know you've been caught. Your only chance is protective custody. Rachel clutched her useless folder of secrets, mascara-stained face, cycling through emotions. I just wanted a better life. Is that so wrong? Not wrong, Tyler said quietly, but stealing it from others. Destroying families, that's where you cross the line. The front door burst open. Police officers flooded in, followed by FBI agents in crisp suits. Patricia Hendricks herself entered last, her presence commanding the room. Victoria Lawson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, bigamy, and conspiracy to commit racketeering. She nodded to the agents who moved forward with handcuffs. You have the right to remain silent. As they cuffed her, Rachel looked at me one last time. The medical school thing, I'm sorry, that was too far. Yes, I said simply, it was. They led her out, her designer heels clicking against our hardwood floors for the last time. Through the window, we watched her being placed in an unmarked federal vehicle. Patricia lingered, collecting the evidence folders. Ms. Harrison, we'll need full statements from all of you, but I wanted you to know Johns Hopkins has agreed to review your case. The criminal interference with your application is unprecedented. They're considering emergency reinstatement. Hope bloomed in my chest. Really? No promises, but the admissions director was appalled. Apparently, this is a security breach they take very seriously. She smiled slightly. Your father would be proud. You protected your family and helped take down a major criminal organization. After the authorities left, we 3 stood in our living room, emotionally drained but somehow cleaner. The secrets Rachel had tried to weaponize had been aired and defanged. Tyler, I said, about those emails. I was drowning in debt, he admitted. Gambling addiction I've since gotten help for. I said horrible things I didn't mean when Dad died. His voice broke. I've lived with the guilt every day, wondering if the stress I caused contributed to his heart attack. It didn't, Mom said firmly. The doctor was clear. Your father had an undiagnosed congenital condition. It would have happened regardless. But the things I said were forgiven before you even said them, Mom continued. That's what family does. We forgive, we heal, we move forward together. Tyler broke down then, 2 years of suppressed guilt pouring out. Mom and I held him as he sobbed, our family triangle reformed without the toxic presence that had nearly destroyed it. My phone buzzed, an email from Johns Hopkins. Dear Ms. Harrison, in light of the extraordinary criminal circumstances surrounding your application withdrawal, the admissions committee is conducting an emergency review. Please stand by for further communication within 48 hours. We deeply regret this situation and admire your courage in pursuing justice. Sincerely, Dr. Angela Martinez, Director of Admissions. I read it aloud, hardly daring to believe. You're going to be a doctor, Mom said with certainty, just like your father planned. We don't know that yet. I do, she smiled. Mothers know these things. That night, we ordered pizza and sat together watching old home videos. Dad's laugh filled the room, his presence felt in the lessons he'd taught us. To protect each other, to plan carefully, to forgive quickly. Rachel, Victoria, had thought our family secrets would destroy us. Instead, bringing them into the light had freed us. The truth, even painful truth, had less power than the lies we tell to hide it. As I prepared for bed, Tyler knocked on my door. Kenzie, I need you to know, I would never have hurt Dad. Those searches, those emails, I was scared and angry and stupid, but I loved him. I know, I said. I've always known. That's why I didn't let her use it against us. How can you be so sure? Because I know you, Tyler, the real you, not the person Rachel tried to make you, not the guilty man you've been punishing yourself as, but my brother, who once gave me his entire allowance so I could buy a telescope for my science project. He hugged me, then the first real hug in years without Rachel standing between us. Thank you, he whispered, for fighting for us, for not giving up even when I took her side. That's what family does, I said, echoing Mom's words. We fight for each other, even when we're fighting with each other. The war was won, but battles remained. Rachel's trial, the FBI investigation, the Johns Hopkins appeal, all of it lay ahead. But for tonight, we were just a family reunited secrets, aired wounds beginning to heal. Dad's trust money had been meant to secure my future. In the end, it had done something more valuable. It had saved our family from a predator who preyed on grief and division. The education I'd received from this experience might prove just as valuable as any medical degree. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight, we were home. We were together, and we were free. Saturday morning arrived with a flurry of activity I hadn't anticipated. By 8 a.m., our quiet street buzzed with news vans and reporters who'd somehow gotten wind of the Black Widow Network bust. Patricia Hendricks had warned me the case would go public, but seeing our family home on the morning news was surreal. Turn it off, Tyler said, entering the kitchen, where I sat nursing coffee and watching the coverage. Did you see what they're calling her? I gestured at the screen where Rachel's mugshot appeared beside the headline, Romance Scammer Part of Nationwide Ring. I don't want to see anything about her ever again. But the universe had other plans. His phone rang, his lawyer. Tyler, you need to get down here. Your wife, ex-wife, whatever she is, she's making accusations, wild ones. What kind of accusations? Tyler put the call on speaker. She's claiming you were in on it, that the whole family was running a scam to steal her legitimate inheritance. Her what? I nearly spat out my coffee. She's produced documents suggesting her deceased grandmother left her $1 million estate that your family somehow stole. Tyler and I exchanged glances. We'll be right there. An hour later, we sat in the law offices of Brennan and Associates, reviewing the latest insanity. Rachel's lawyer, apparently a public defender since her assets were frozen, had filed countercharges that defied reality. She's claiming she's the real victim, Tyler's lawyer James Brennan explained. According to this filing, she inherited significant wealth from her grandmother, Eleanor Lawson, who died last year. She alleges your family learned about this inheritance and orchestrated an elaborate scheme to steal it. That's insane, Tyler said. It gets better, Brennan continued. She has death certificates, or even bank statements, showing $1 million transfer into an account she claims you all had access to. I leaned forward. Let me guess. All these documents appeared suddenly, despite no mention of this grandmother or inheritance during their entire relationship. Exactly, but here's the concerning part. The documents look legitimate, professional forgeries if they're fake. They're fake, a new voice said from the doorway. Patricia Hendricks entered, followed by 2 FBI agents. We've been tracking similar tactics from the network. When cornered, they create elaborate backstories with supporting documentation. It's meant to muddy the waters, create reasonable doubt. So this grandmother, Eleanor Lawson died in a nursing home in Florida last year. She was a real person. That's what makes this clever. But she died penniless, her estate consisting of some costume jewelry and photo albums. No relation to Victoria. Then how? The network has a document specialist, someone who creates convincing forgeries using real deceased persons' identities. We raided his operation this morning. Patricia smiled grimly. Would you like to know what we found? She produced a tablet swiping through images. 63 false inheritance claims in progress. Marriage certificates, death certificates, wills, all using real deceased individuals who died without significant assets or clear next of kin. So Rachel's counterattack is actually evidence of the broader conspiracy. She just implicated the entire network by using their standard playbook. But Rachel wasn't done. That afternoon, as we returned home, we found Mom agitated and confused. There was a woman here, she said. Said she was from social services, asked all sorts of questions about you two. My blood chilled. What kind of questions? Whether you'd ever hurt me, if I felt safe. She kept trying to get me to sign papers saying I wanted to file a complaint. Tyler cursed. Rachel's not giving up. I called Patricia immediately. She's trying to manipulate Mom into filing elder abuse charges. She's desperate, Patricia said. Her network is abandoning her. 3 more members were arrested this morning based on evidence from her laptop. She knows she's looking at 25 to life. So she's trying to take us down with her. It's all she has left. But Mackenzie, we have a bigger problem. One of the arrested network members is talking. He says Rachel had a partner here in D.C., someone who was supposed to extract her if things went bad. Who? We don't know yet. But be careful. A cornered animal is dangerous, but a cornered animal with an escape plan, that's worse. That evening, Tyler and I installed new security cameras and changed all the locks. Mom, in a moment of clarity, suggested we stay together in the living room rather than scattered in our bedrooms. Safety in numbers, she said. Your father always said that. Around 10 p.m., my phone rang. Johns Hopkins. Ms. Harrison. This is Dr. Martinez. I'm calling personally because of the unusual circumstances. The committee has made a decision. I held my breath. We're appalled by the criminal actions taken against you. After reviewing the evidence, including the FBI's confirmation of the cyber attack on your application, we're prepared to offer you emergency reinstatement to the incoming class. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tears rolled down my cheeks. There is one condition. Given the ongoing criminal case, we need assurance of your safety and ability to attend. Can you confirm the threat has been contained? I looked at Tyler, who was setting up motion detectors at Mom, clutching her tea at the FBI protection detail Patricia had arranged outside. Yes, I said, hoping it wasn't a lie. The threat is contained. Then congratulations, Ms. Harrison. We'll see you in August. I'd barely hung up when the motion detector Tyler had just installed began beeping. Someone was in our backyard. Call 911, Tyler whispered, grabbing a baseball bat. But I was already dialing Patricia. Someone's here. Units are responding. Stay inside, stay together. Through the window, we saw a figure in dark clothing trying to jimmy the back door. Then, another figure appeared, this one from inside our garage. How did they get in the garage? Mom whispered. The realization hit me. The garage door code. Rachel knew it. Both figures were now at the back door. In the dim light, I caught a glimpse of one face and gasped. Derek, Chen, Tyler breathed. My friend Derek. The same Derek whom Tyler had emailed about Dad, the friend who'd been around during Rachel's entire infiltration. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. He was her partner, I said. He helped her target us, probably fed her information about the family, about Dad's death, about the trust. Tyler's face was a study in betrayal. He was at our wedding. He's been my friend since college. The back door splintered. Derek and his companion burst in, both wearing ski masks they hadn't bothered to secure properly. "Where is she?" Derek demanded, his voice muffled but recognizable. "Where's Victoria?" "In federal custody," I said, surprising myself with my calm. "Where you're about to be." "Not without insurance," the other man said. I didn't recognize him. Probably another network member. "We need leverage." Like what Morforge inheritance documents, I let disdain drip from my voice. That plan already failed. "Like her," Derek pointed at Mom. "Victoria says the old lady's worth 900 grand in life insurance. She comes with us, you transfer the money, everyone goes home happy." "Over my dead body." Tyler stepped forward with the bat. Derek pulled out a gun. "That can be arranged." The room froze. Outside sirens wailed, but they seemed impossibly far away. "Derek, think about what you're doing," Tyler said. "We were friends. Real friends." "Were we?" Derek's laugh was bitter. "You had everything. Perfect family money for medical school, for your sister house paid off. You know what I had, student loans. Dead-end job. Then Victoria found me, showed me how unfair it all was." "So you helped her destroy us?" I helped level the playing field, but his hand holding the gun shook slightly. I caught movement outside. FBI agents taking positions. We just needed to buy time. "The field's already level," I said. "You're both going to prison, but testify against the network and maybe you'll get out before you're 60. "Shut up!" The other man was getting agitated. "Derek, grab the old lady. We're leaving." "No," Mom said firmly. "I'm not going anywhere with you." She stood with surprising dignity, facing down armed criminals with the same steel that had faced down Rachel hours ago. "Mrs. Harrison!" Derek's voice cracked. "Please don't make this harder." "Harder," Mom's voice rose. "You ate at my table. I treated you like family, and this is how you repay us." I said, "Shut up!" The other man raised his gun toward Mom. Several things happened at once. Tyler swung the bat. I threw myself toward Mom. The front door exploded inward. FBI agents flooded the room screaming commands. Derek dropped his gun immediately, hands up. His partner tried to run, but was tackled before he made it 3 steps. "Oh, Derek Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy breaking and entering an attempted kidnapping," an agent announced. As they cuffed him, Derek looked at Tyler with tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry. She made it sound so easy. Just information. I never meant for it to go this far." "No, save it for your lawyer," Tyler said coldly. "And Derek, we weren't friends. Friends don't sell each other out for money." After the chaos settled and statements were given, Patricia Hendricks sat with us in our living room, now a crime scene being processed by federal agents. "This was the break we needed," she said. "Derek Chen was the network's inside man for 3 operations. His arrest breaks open cases in Philadelphia and Boston, too." "How many more are there?" I asked tiredly. "In the network, we've identified 19 members so far, but with Chen and Victoria cooperating, and they will to save themselves, we'll get them all." "Will we have to testify?" "Yes, but with federal protection. This case will make headlines for months. The Black Widow Network, as the media's calling it, is the largest romance fraud conspiracies we've ever uncovered." Mom, who'd been quiet, suddenly spoke. "Will that woman, Victoria Rachel, whoever she is, will she ever get out?" Patricia's face was grim. With the bigamy fraud conspiracy charges and now attempted kidnapping, conservative estimate is 30 years minimum. She'll be in her 70s before she's eligible for parole. It wasn't quite life, but it was close enough. As Patricia left, she paused at the door. "Ms. Harrison, your father would be incredibly proud. You didn't just save your family's money, you saved dozens of families from future targeting, and you did it while maintaining your integrity." "I had help," I said, looking at Mom and Tyler. "Yes," Patricia smiled. "That's what makes you different from them. You have real family. They only had conspiracy." That night, despite everything, we ordered Chinese food again. The house was a disaster. Crime scene tape fingerprint, dust, broken door, but we were together. To surviving, Tyler raised his beer. To fighting back, I countered with my soda. To family, Mom added with her tea. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in months, it felt like we could breathe. My phone buzzed with a text from the network member who'd messaged me days ago about meeting. Thank you for stopping her. She destroyed my family 5 years ago. Watching her get caught on the news was the closure I needed. Good luck with medical school. I showed it to Tyler and Mom. We sat quietly processing the strange web of pain and connection Rachel had created in her wake. At least some good came from this, Mom said finally. Good, Tyler laughed bitterly. Yes, good. We faced our demons, aired our secrets, came out stronger. She patted his hand. Your guilt about Dad Mackenzie's fear of losing her dreams, my terror of being a burden. We confronted it all. She was right. Rachel had forced us to excavate our deepest fears and face them head on. In trying to destroy us, she'd inadvertently made us stronger. Plus, Mom added with a sly smile, we're going to have one hell of a story for Mackenzie's medical school interviews. We laughed, then real laughter for the first time in months. Outside, federal agents continued their investigation. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and trials and media attention. But tonight we were just the Harrison family. Bruised but not broken, tested but triumphant. The money was safe. The predators were caught, and I was still gonna be a doctor. Rachel had sent that gloating text about stealing my future. Instead, she'd helped me reclaim it. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. As Mom headed to bed and Tyler began boarding up the broken door, I sat in Dad's study one last time. His pictures smiled down at me. Wedding photos, graduation days, family vacations. We did it, Dad, I whispered. We protected each other, just like you taught us. The trust money would go to medical school as planned, but the real inheritance, the lessons about vigilance, preparation, and family loyalty, had already been received and proven invaluable. Tomorrow, the rebuilding would begin. Tonight, we'd won. The federal courthouse in downtown D.C. became our second home over the following weeks. The January cold bit through our coats as we climbed the marble steps each morning, flanked by FBI escorts and pursued by reporters shouting questions. Miss Harrison, how does it feel to be the woman who brought down the Black Widow network? Tyler, did you know your wife was a bigamist? Mrs. Harrison, were you ever truly in danger? We never answered following Patricia's strict instructions to remain silent until the trial. But inside the courthouse, we spoke volumes through testimony evidence and the systematic dismantling of Rachel's criminal empire. The first day of Rachel's trial, she entered in an orange jumpsuit, her perfectly styled hair now hanging limp, her designer image replaced by federal detention reality. She caught my eye across the courtroom and mouthed something I couldn't decipher. Tyler, sitting beside me, tensed. Don't look at her, our victim advocate whispered. That's what she wants. Patricia Hendricks stood to deliver her opening statement, and the scope of the case became breathtakingly clear. Oh, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant Victoria Lawson, also known as Rachel Matthews, Sarah Winters, Jennifer Cox, and Michelle Bryant, stands accused of leading a criminal enterprise that has stolen over $12 million from 17 families across 8 states. Gasps rippled through the gallery. I hadn't known the full extent until that moment. Through a pattern of bigamy, fraud, and identity theft, Ms. Lawson and her network identified vulnerable families, infiltrated their lives through marriage, and systematically drained their assets. The Harrison family of Bethesda, Maryland, was to be her biggest score yet. A $900,000 education trust that represented one father's dying wish for his daughter's future. Patricia clicked through slides showing Rachel's various identities, the forged documents, the trail of destroyed families. Each image built the case methodically, inexorably. But the Harrisons fought back. Through careful documentation and protective action, they not only saved their family's assets, but exposed an entire criminal network. Today, 19 members of that network face justice because one family refused to be victims. When I took the stand on day 3, Rachel watched me with laser focus. Her public defender, a harried-looking man named Carl Brenner, had an impossible job, but he tried. "Ms. Harrison," he began after I'd recounted the basic facts, "isn't it true you were jealous of Rachel's relationship with your brother?" "No. You didn't resent her presence in your family. I resented her trying to steal from us. There's a difference. You claim she assaulted you, but there were no witnesses besides your elderly, confused mother." Objection," Patricia called out. "Mrs. Harrison's mental capacity is not in question here." Sustained. Brenner tried another angle. "You moved the trust funds before any crime had been committed. Wasn't that presumptuous?" "It was protective. Like keeping your door locked isn't presumptuous just because no one's broken in yet. But by moving those funds, didn't you cause Rachel's financial distress force her into desperate actions?" I met Rachel's eyes, then seeing the fury barely contained beneath her practiced calm. "Mr. Brenner, your client texted me claiming she'd stolen $900,000 for a dream house. She bragged about it. That's not desperation. That's gloating over a crime she thought she'd committed." "Allegedly texted." "I have the screenshots. The FBI has the phone records. Would you like me to read it aloud again?" He didn't. The most damaging testimony came from Derek Chen, who'd flipped completely in exchange for a reduced sentence. Wearing his own orange jumpsuit, he detailed how Rachel had found him through social media, identified his connection to our family, and recruited him. She called it evening the playing field. Derek testified, his voice hollow, said wealthy families hoarded resources while people like us struggled, made it sound like justice. "How long before she married Tyler Harrison did this recruitment occur?" Patricia asked. 8 months. She studied the family for months before making contact with Tyler, knew about the trust fund, the mother's declining health, even which coffee shop Tyler frequented. Tyler beside me made it sound like he'd been punched. Learning that his entire romance had been orchestrated was brutal. "She had files," Derek continued, "psychological profiles on each family member. Mackenzie was labeled the primary obstacle, emotionally intelligent, protective. Tyler was the entry point, lonely, eager for connection. Mrs. Harrison was the vulnerability, declining capacity, holds financial authority." "Like we were marks in a con game," Tyler whispered. "Because that's exactly what we were," I whispered back. The network's document forger, a nervous man named Harold Trimble, testified via video link from another federal detention center. His testimony revealed the terrifying scope of their operation. "I created approximately 300 false documents over 4 years," he admitted. "Inheritance papers, death certificates, powers of attorney. Victoria was one of my best clients. Very specific about details, always paid promptly." "How much did she pay for the Harrison family package?" Patricia asked. $15,000. She wanted an entire mythology. The Eleanor Lawson inheritance, supporting bank documents, even fake newspaper clippings about the grandmother's supposed wealth. "Did she indicate why she needed such elaborate forgeries?" "She said the family was smart. Said the daughter was particularly suspicious and everything needed to be perfect." I felt a grim satisfaction at being considered a threat to their plans. The trial's most dramatic moment came when Rachel herself took the stand. Against her lawyer's advice, she insisted on testifying. As she was sworn in, I noticed her hands shaking slightly, the first crack in her composure. "Ms. Lawson," Patricia began, "how many times have you been married?" 5 times. "How many times have you been divorced?" Rachel's jaw clenched. 2 "So you were married to 3 men simultaneously when you married Tyler Harrison." "I don't recognize those marriages as valid." "The state of Maryland disagrees, as do Nevada, California, and Florida." Patricia pulled up marriage certificates on the screen. Albert Morrison 2018 still legally binding. James Crawford 2019 still legally binding. Robert Jang 2021 still legally binding. Then Tyler Harrison 2024. That's bigamy 3 times over. Those men abandoned me. The marriages were over. Did you file for divorce? I couldn't find them. Because you'd stolen their money and disappeared. Patricia's voice was sharp as a blade. Objection, Brenner called out. Withdrawn, but the damage was done. Patricia moved through the evidence methodically, the forged signatures, the recorded conversations discussing the trust fund, the assault on me, the attempted kidnapping, each piece built upon the last until Rachel's guilt towered like a monument in the courtroom. I was trying to build a life, Rachel said desperately when asked about her motivations. Do you know what it's like to grow up with nothing? To watch others have everything handed to them? So you decided to take what others had earned. I decided to create opportunities. By destroying families, Rachel's mask finally cracked completely. They had plenty. The Harrisons had nearly $1 million just sitting there for one person's education. Do you know how many people that could help? You mean how much it could help you buy a dream house? I deserved something good in my life. At the expense of Mackenzie Harrison's future. Rachel looked directly at me, then real hatred burning in her eyes. She would have wasted it. Another privileged kid playing doctor. I would have used that money to create real value. Real value being $1 million house in your name, only I earned it. Do you know how hard it is to maintain these relationships? To pretend to care about their boring lives, their petty problems? I worked for every penny. The courtroom was silent, except for the court reporter's keys. Rachel had just admitted to the emotional manipulation, the calculated deception. Even her own lawyer looked defeated. On the 5th day, the other victims testified. Diane Crawford spoke about her son's destroyed life. A man from Philadelphia detailed losing his family's bakery to one of Rachel's aliases. A widow from Boston wept as she described how another network member had posed as a grief counselor to gain access to her late husband's estate. 17 families, $12 million, countless lives derailed. But there were moments of hope, too. 3 victims had managed to recover some funds after the network's bank accounts were frozen. 2 families had reconciled after learning they'd been manipulated into conflict. 1 victim had started a support group that now helped dozens of romance scam survivors. The Harrisons gave us hope, Diane Crawford said during her testimony. They showed that these predators could be stopped, that fighting back was possible. During a recess, Tyler approached Derek, who was being led back to holding. Why? Tyler asked simply. Derek couldn't meet his eyes. She made me feel special. Said I was smarter than everyone realized, that together we could take what we deserved. He finally looked up. I'm sorry, Tyler. I destroyed our friendship for money I never even got to spend. You destroyed it for a lot less than that, Tyler replied. You destroyed it the moment you decided I was a mark instead of a friend. The jury deliberated for exactly 3 hours and 47 minutes. We sat in a small room, drinking terrible courthouse coffee and jumping every time the door opened. Mom dozed in her chair, the stress of testifying having exhausted her. Tyler paced. I stared at my Johns Hopkins acceptance email for the 100th time, reminding myself that this nightmare had an end. Jury's back, the bailiff announced. We filed into the courtroom. Rachel stood as the judge entered her orange jumpsuit, a stark reminder of how far she'd fallen from the polished woman who'd entered our lives. On the count of wire fraud, how do you find guilty? On the counts of conspiracy to commit racketeering, guilty. On the count of bigamy, guilty. It continued through 17 counts, guilty on every single one. Rachel swayed but remained standing, her face a mask of disbelief. She genuinely thought she could talk her way out of this. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following month, but Patricia had already told us what to expect. 25 to 30 years minimum, possibly life with all the charges combined. As court officers prepared to lead Rachel away, she suddenly lunged toward our section. "This isn't over," she screamed. "You think you've won? I have friends, people who will remember what you did to me." Security quickly subdued her, but her threats echoed in the marble halls. Outside the courthouse, Patricia held an impromptu press conference while we slipped out a side entrance. But reporters found us anyway. "Ms. Harrison, how do you feel about the verdict?" This time I stopped. Tyler and Mom paused with me. I searched for words. I feel proud that our family stood together, grateful that justice was served, and hopeful that other families will find the strength to fight back against predators who exploit trust and love. "Will you still attend medical school?" "Yes. My father saved for my education, and I intend to honor that gift by becoming the best doctor I can be." "Any words for Rachel?" I thought carefully. I hope she uses her time in prison to reflect on the pain she's caused and maybe somehow find a path to genuine redemption. "Well, that's very forgiving of you." "My family taught me that holding on to hate only poisons yourself. We're moving forward." That evening, we held a quiet celebration at home. Nothing fancy, just Thai food and board games, Mom surprisingly sharp as she decimated us at Scrabble. 25 years, Tyler mused. She'll be in her 60s when she gets out. "If she gets out," I corrected. "With all the charges from other states still pending, it might be longer." "Do you really hope she finds redemption?" Mom asked, remembering my courthouse statement. "I hope she stops hurting people," I said. "Whether that comes from redemption or just incarceration, I don't really care." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We all tensed. Rachel's threat still fresh, but it was just another victim thanking us for our courage. "That makes 37, I said, adding it to my count. 37 what? Tyler asked. 37 families who've reached out to thank us. 37 groups of people who feel less alone because we fought back. "Oh, 38, Mom corrected, showing her own phone. "This one just came in." We spent the rest of the evening reading messages from survivors' families who'd found strength in our story. Each one was a small light pushing back against the darkness Rachel had tried to spread. The legal battle was won, but the war wasn't quite over. 12 more network members awaited trial. Rachel's appeals would drag on for years. The media attention would eventually die down, but the impact on our lives was permanent. But sitting there with Mom and Tyler reading messages from strangers who'd become allies through shared pain, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. We'd protected each other. We'd sought justice. We'd refused to be victims. The trust fund would go to medical school as planned. Tyler would rebuild his life free from toxic manipulation. Mom would get the care she needed without predators circling. And somewhere in federal prison, Rachel would have decades to contemplate the difference between taking what you want and earning what you deserve. Justice wasn't perfect. It couldn't undo the pain or restore the months of fear, but it was something. A line drawn, a statement made. Predators beware, some families fight back. And some families win. Spring arrived early that year, cherry blossoms blooming throughout D.C. as our family began the slow process of healing. The trial was over, Rachel locked away, but her poison lingered in unexpected ways. Tyler had moved back home temporarily, his rental house too full of memories. I'd find him some mornings sitting at the kitchen table staring at his wedding ring. "I loved her," he said one April morning 2 months after the verdict. How pathetic is that I knew she was using me, and I loved her anyway. Love isn't pathetic, Mom said surprisingly clear that day. Being fooled by someone who weaponized love, that's not your failing, that's theirs. But I should have known. Mackenzie knew. I suspected, I corrected, pouring coffee. There's a difference, and I had the luxury of distance. You were in the middle of it. Tyler had started therapy specifically with someone who specialized in victims of emotional manipulation. Dr. Sarah Winters. The irony of sharing a name with one of Rachel's aliases wasn't lost on us, helped him understand how predators like Rachel operated. She love-bombed you, he explained after one session, created intense emotional connection, quickly made you feel special and chosen. It's literally addictive, releases the same chemicals as drugs. So I was addicted to a lie. You were human, Mom said firmly, and humans can heal. The healing wasn't linear. Tyler had good days where he threw himself into job hunting and rebuilding his life. Then came the bad days where he'd discover another lie. A friend who never existed, a story about her past that was completely fabricated, even their song stolen from another victim's social media. Everything was fake, he said after finding out Rachel had copied their proposal story wholesale from a Pinterest board. Our entire relationship was crowdsourced from other people's lives. But slowly, incrementally, he began to reclaim himself. He joined a support group for fraud victims, started working with Patricia's team to help identify other network members, even began dating again, cautiously with full disclosure about his past. Mom's journey was different, but equally challenging. The stress of the trial had accelerated her cognitive decline, and we faced difficult decisions about her care. I don't want to be a burden, she said during a lucid moment in May. You're not a burden, I said firmly. You're our mother. We take care of each other. We hired Maria, a home health aide who came highly recommended and thoroughly background checked. We'd learned our lesson about trust. She was a godsend, patient with Mom's confusion firm when needed, and absolutely uninterested in our financial situation beyond her paycheck. I don't care if you're millionaires or paupers, Maria said bluntly during her interview. I care if your mom gets her medications on time and doesn't wander off. Mom took to her immediately, perhaps recognizing a kindred no-nonsense spirit. My own healing centered around reclaiming my future. Johns Hopkins had kept their word, and I was set to begin in August. But the trauma of almost losing everything made me hyper-vigilant. You check your acceptance status every day, Tyler observed in June. Sometimes twice, I admitted. She can't hurt you anymore, Kenzie. I know that logically, but part of me keeps waiting for another text saying it's all been stolen again. That's PTSD, he said simply. Welcome to the club. We both started attending the support group meetings. The stories were heartbreakingly similar. People who'd been targeted, manipulated, drained financially and emotionally by someone they trusted. But there was strength in shared experience. The shame is the worst part, one woman said. Everyone asks how I didn't see it coming, like being trusting is a character flaw. Society victim blames, another member added, easier than admitting we're all vulnerable to the right manipulation. I found myself becoming an advocate, speaking at fraud prevention seminars, working with banks to create better protection protocols. The Harrison name, once targeted for exploitation, became associated with fighting back. You're turning pain into purpose, Dr. Reynolds said when I stopped by the hospital to say goodbye before school. That's the best revenge against people like Rachel. The financial aftermath was complex but manageable. The trust fund, safely protected, would cover my medical school expenses. Mom's assets were secured in a carefully structured trust with multiple oversight provisions. Tyler was rebuilding his savings, living at home to save money while he recovered. We're okay, William Morrison assured us during a review meeting. More than okay. You prevented a catastrophic loss through quick thinking and careful planning. Dad's planning, I corrected. He built in the protections that saved us. He'd be proud of how you used them. There were unexpected bright spots in our recovery. The publicity around the case had brought opportunities. A book deal I was considering, speaking engagements about fraud prevention, even a documentary filmmaker interested in our story. We could help so many people, Tyler said, reviewing an offer from a production company. Show them how to spot the warning signs. But do we want to relive it? I asked. Mom having one of her clear days settled it. If our pain can prevent one family from going through this, it's worth it. We signed the deal with proceeds going to a victim support fund we established. Romance came unexpectedly for Tyler. At the support group, he met Emma. Not a victim herself, but someone whose sister had been targeted by a network member. She understood the trauma without having been Tyler's rescuer, creating a balance that let him heal while moving forward. She knows the real me, he told me after they'd been dating for 2 months. Not the person Rachel tried to make me, not the victim I became, but actually me. How does that feel? Terrifying, he admitted, but also free. Mom had her own victories. Despite the progressing dementia, she retained moments of stunning clarity, usually when we needed them most. During one family dinner in July, she raised her glass. To surviving, she said clearly, to fighting, to winning, and to your father who gave us the tools to do all three. We clinked glasses, tears and laughter mixing. I may forget your name sometimes, she continued, but I never forget that you're mine and that I love you. The summer flew by in a whirl of preparation. Shopping for medical school supplies felt surreal. Ordinary activity after extraordinary trauma. Tyler helped me move into my small apartment near campus, both of us hyper-vigilant about security. Deadbolt doorbell camera, and the neighbors seem nosy in a good way, he assessed. You'll be safe. We all will, I said. We made sure of that. A week before classes started, we received word that 3 more network members had been sentenced, including Harold the Forger. 15 years each. Rachel's appeals had been denied. Derek was serving his reduced sentence and had written Tyler a long letter of apology that Tyler couldn't bring himself to read yet. Maybe someday, he said, filing it away, but not today. The night before I left for school, we had a final family dinner. Maria joined us now, practically family herself. Mom was foggy but happy, Tyler confident in his new job at a cybersecurity firm. If you can't beat the scammers, help others defend against them. And me ready to finally pursue the dream that had been so nearly stolen. I have something for you, Tyler said, pulling out a wrapped package. Inside was a stethoscope, top of the line engraved with a Dr. Mackenzie Harrison and the date. It's premature, I protested. It's inevitable, he countered. You fought off a criminal network to get here. Medical school will be easy by comparison. Mom pulled out her own gift, a photo album she'd been secretly working on with Maria's help. Pictures of Dad, of our family through the years of the 3 of us rebuilding after the trauma. The last page held a single photo. The 3 of us at the courthouse after the verdict, exhausted but victorious. Remember where you come from, Mom said. Remember what you survived. Let it make you compassionate, not hard. I promise, I whispered, hugging them both. That night, I sat in Dad's study one last time before leaving. His portrait watched over me, and I could almost hear his voice. Protect each other. Plan for the worst. Hope for the best. We did it, Dad, I said to the photo. We protected each other. The money's safe, the family's healing, and I'm gonna be a doctor, just like you wanted. The room felt peaceful, Rachel's chaotic energy finally exorcised. This was our home again, not a crime scene, not a battlefield, but home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Medical school, Mom's advancing condition, Tyler's continued recovery. But tonight we were simply a family who'd faced evil and chosen healing over hatred, justice over vengeance, and love over fear. The trust fund would fulfill its purpose. Tyler would build a life based on truth. Mom would be cared for with dignity. And somewhere in federal prison, Rachel would serve decades contemplating the difference between taking shortcuts and earning success. But we wouldn't waste energy thinking about her. We had lives to live, dreams to chase, and a family to cherish. The Harrison family had been tested by fire and emerged not unscathed, but unbroken. That was victory enough. September arrived with unexpected drama. Just as I was settling into the rhythm of medical school, Patricia Hendricks called with news that Rachel's sentencing hearing had been scheduled. The prosecution wanted our family's impact statements. "It's your chance to address the court about how her crimes affected you," Patricia explained. "It's not required, but it can influence sentencing." We gathered at home that weekend to discuss it. Mom was having a clear day. Tyler had driven up from his new apartment, and we sat around the kitchen table like we were planning strategy again. "I want to do it," Tyler said firmly. "I need to look her in the eye and tell her exactly what she stole from me." "The judge needs to understand the full impact." Well, I agreed. "Not just the financial crimes, but the emotional devastation." Mom surprised us both. "I'll speak too," she said. "I may forget things, but I remember what that woman did to my family." We spent the next weeks preparing our statements. Writing them was its own form of therapy, distilling months of trauma into words that could convey the damage while maintaining dignity. The day of sentencing, the courthouse was packed. Media coverage had intensified as more network members were arrested based on evidence from Rachel's case. She'd become the poster child for romance fraud, her mugshot synonymous with calculated deception. Rachel entered in shackles, the orange jumpsuit now familiar, but something had changed. The defiance was gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed acceptance. Prison had already begun its work. Judge Patricia Nguyen, known for her tough sentences on financial crimes, reviewed the case summary before addressing the court. "Ms. Lawson, you stand convicted of 17 federal counts, including wire fraud, racketeering, bigamy, and conspiracy. Before I pronounce sentence, we'll hear from your victims." The prosecutor called witness after witness. Diane Crawford spoke about her son's suicide attempt after Rachel destroyed him. The widow from Boston wept through her statement about losing her husband's legacy. Each story added weight to the mountain of harm Rachel had caused. Then it was our turn. Tyler went first, his prepared statement abandoned for words from the heart. "You didn't just steal money," he said, looking directly at Rachel. "You stole my ability to trust. You made me question every relationship, every kindness, every moment of connection. You turned love into a weapon and used it against me." His voice grew stronger. "But you failed. You wanted to destroy my family, and instead you made us stronger. You wanted to isolate me, and instead I found real community with other survivors. You wanted to break me, and instead I learned what actual love looks like. Honest, patient, and nothing like what you offered." Rachel flinched at his words but didn't look away. Mom spoke next, Maria, helping her to the podium. Her statement was brief but devastating. "I'm forgetting more things each day," she said simply, "but I'll never forget how you tried to steal my daughter's future. A mother's worst nightmare is failing to protect her children. You tried to make me the instrument of their destruction." She paused, gathering strength. "My husband saved for years to ensure our daughter could become a doctor. You tried to steal not just money, but his final gift to her. That's unforgivable." I went last, my statement carefully crafted but delivered with genuine emotion. "Your Honor, Rachel Lawson didn't just commit financial crimes. She committed emotional terrorism. She studied our family's grief, identified our vulnerabilities, and exploited them with surgical precision." I turned to address Rachel directly. "You called me the primary obstacle in your files. You were right. I was an obstacle to your cruelty, and I'm proud of that. Every family needs someone willing to be the obstacle when predators come calling. But here's what you never understood. My family wasn't weak because we'd lost my father. We were strong because we'd loved him. That love, that connection, that trust you tried to exploit. It's the very thing that defeated you." Rachel's lawyer made a weak plea for leniency, citing her difficult childhood and suggesting she was merely a small player in a larger network. Judge Nguyen wasn't moved. "Ms. Lawson, I've reviewed your history extensively. This wasn't desperation or poor judgment. This was calculated predation spanning years and destroying multiple families." She paused, consulting her notes. The pre-sentencing report indicates no genuine remorse, only regret at being caught. You've shown no empathy for your victims, no understanding of the devastation you've caused. Furthermore, evidence suggests you were not merely a participant, but a leader in this criminal network. Your sophistication in document fraud, your training of other members, your selection of particularly vulnerable victims, all indicate a level of malice that shocks the conscience. The courtroom was silent as she continued. For count 1 wire fraud, I sentence you to 20 years. For count 2 racketeering, 20 years. For count 3 conspiracy. She went through all 17 counts. Some sentences would run concurrently, others consecutively. The math was staggering. In total, Ms. Lawson, you are sentenced to 45 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution of $12 million to your victims, though I recognize this is likely uncollectible. 45 years. Rachel would be over 80 if she lived to see freedom. Do you have anything to say? Judge Nguyen asked. Rachel stood slowly. For a moment, I thought she might finally apologize. Instead, she said, I was just trying to survive in a world that gives people like them everything and people like me nothing. People like you? Judge Nguyen's voice was sharp. You mean criminals. You're right. We give criminals nothing but consequences. Court is adjourned. As officers led Rachel away, she looked back one last time. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I expected hatred, defiance, maybe even threats. Instead, I saw something worse. Emptiness. A void where a soul should be. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy was intense. Patricia handled most of it, but one reporter caught us at our car. 45 years. Are you satisfied with the sentence? Tyler answered for all of us. We're satisfied that she can't hurt anyone else. The rest is just numbers. That evening, we held a quiet celebration at home. Other victims called to thank us, their gratitude bittersweet. Justice had been served, but scars remained. 45 years, Mom mused over dinner. She'll die in prison. Most likely, I agreed. Good, she said simply. Some people deserve second chances. She had dozens of chances to stop hurting people. She chose differently each time. Tyler raised his glass. To closure. To justice, I countered. To moving forward, Mom added. We drank and talk turned to lighter things. My classes at Johns Hopkins, Tyler's new relationship, Mom's good days outnumbering the bad for now. Rachel's name wasn't mentioned again that night. A week later, I received a letter forwarded through Patricia's office. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Mackenzie, it read. I know you won't believe this, but I need you to know. It started as just another job. Your family was supposed to be easy marks, grieving, vulnerable, wealthy, but you fought back in ways I didn't expect. You want to know something funny? In another life, I think we could have been friends. You have the strategic mind I admire, the protective instincts I respect. We're not so different, you and I. We both fight for our families. You just had a family worth fighting for. 45 years is a long time to think. Maybe I'll use it to figure out where I went so wrong. Or maybe I'll just plan my next move. Time will tell. Take care of your mother. Despite everything, I didn't want to hurt her. She reminded me of someone I used to know before I became what I am. Victoria. I showed the letter to Tyler and Patricia. Tyler wanted to burn it, but Patricia took it as evidence. She's still trying to manipulate you, Patricia warned, suggesting connection, implying similarity. It's what predators do. I know, I said, but I'm keeping a copy. Why? To remember that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like family. Sometimes it smiles and offers help. Sometimes it writes letters suggesting friendship. I framed the letter and hung it in my apartment, not as a trophy, but as a warning. A reminder to trust but verify, to love but stay alert, to welcome people in but keep the locks secure. Medical school consumed my days, but I made time for the support group, for speaking engagements, for helping other families recognize the warning signs. Our story became a cautionary tale, but also a beacon of hope. If the Harrisons could fight back and win, so can we. Became a rallying cry in survivor communities. Tyler thrived in his new life, his relationship with Emma growing stronger. He'd learned to trust again, but wisely. Background checks were standard procedure, references were verified, and emotional manipulation was a deal breaker. "I'm not paranoid," he explained to Emma early on. "I'm careful. There's a difference." "I appreciate careful," she'd replied. "It means you've learned from experience." Mom's condition progressed, but slowly. Mariah became family, joining our dinners and celebrations. On bad days when Mom didn't recognize us, Mariah would gently guide her back with photo albums and familiar stories. "She's in there," Maria would say. "Sometimes the door's closed, but she's always in there." One evening in October, I was studying when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered. "Is this Mackenzie Harrison?" a woman asked. Yes. "My name is Jennifer Wu. I think my husband is being targeted by someone from that network you exposed. I saw your story on the news. Can you help?" I gave her Patricia's number, the FBI hotline, and the support group information. Then I spent an hour on the phone walking her through the warning signs, the documentation she'd need, the steps to protect their assets. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Everyone else thinks I'm crazy, jealous, paranoid." "You're not. Trust your instincts, and remember, it's better to be wrong and careful than right and destroyed." After we hung up, I sat in my small apartment, textbooks scattered around me, and felt the weight of unexpected responsibility. Our victory had made us symbols, guides for others navigating similar darkness. It wasn't the life I'd planned. I'd wanted to be a doctor, nothing more. But sometimes life demands more than our plans. Sometimes surviving isn't enough. You have to help others survive too. Rachel was locked away for decades. Her network dismantled our family healing, but the work continued. Every call from a worried spouse, every email from a confused child, every message from someone saying, "This sounds familiar," they all mattered. In her letter, Rachel had said we weren't so different. She was wrong. The difference was simple but profound. She fought to take, we fought to protect. She built webs to trap, we built networks to save. 45 years she'd spend contemplating that difference. We'd spend those same years living it. The first snow of winter dusted the Johns Hopkins campus as I walked to my anatomy final. 6 months had passed since Rachel's sentencing, and life had settled into a new rhythm, demanding but hopeful. "Sites, Harrison," Dr. Patel called out as I passed her office. "Excellent work on your last practical. Your attention to detail is impressive." "Thank you, Professor." "Keep it up. We need doctors who can spot what others miss." If only she knew how that skill had been developed. That evening, Tyler called with news that made me drop my textbook. "Emma's pregnant," he said, voice thick with emotion. "We just found out. 8 weeks." "Tyler, that's wonderful." I did quick mental math. "A summer baby." "I'm terrified," he admitted. "What if I mess this up? What if I can't protect them from people like her?" "You will. You've learned what to watch for. That baby will be surrounded by a family who knows the value of vigilance. We want you to be the godmother, and Mom to be, well, whatever she can be, for as long as she can be." The joy was bittersweet. Mom's good days were becoming rarer, though she still had moments of stunning clarity. Just last week, she'd helped Maria organize all our family photos, narrating stories from each one with perfect recall. Then, an hour later, she'd asked where Dad was expecting him home for dinner. "She'll be the best grandmother," I assured Tyler, "in her own way, in her own time." Christmas approached with unusual warmth for our family. We decorated the house together, Mom directing from her chair while Tyler and Emma hung ornaments. Maria had become such a fixture that we automatically set her place at the holiday table. 5 stockings this year, Mom observed during a clear moment. Next year, 6. She understood about the baby even when other things escaped her. On Christmas Eve, we received an unexpected gift. William Morrison arrived with a sealed envelope looking unusually emotional. Your father left instructions, he explained, to be opened 3 years after his passing, but only if the trust had been successfully protected from any threats. Inside were letters to each of us, written in Dad's careful hand. Mine read, My dearest Mackenzie, if you're reading this, then you've protected what I left behind, but more importantly, you've protected each other. I always knew you had my strategic mind, but I hoped you'd also inherited your mother's heart. The money was never just about medical school. It was about ensuring you'd have the freedom to become who you were meant to be without compromise. Trust wisely, love freely, and remember that the best doctors heal more than just bodies. All my love, Dad. Tyler's letter spoke of forgiveness, of learning from mistakes, of the strength found in vulnerability. Mom's was simpler but no less powerful. Reminders of their love story, assurances that she'd raise their children well. We cried together. Dad's presence felt strongly in his absence. Even Maria wiped away tears. He knew, Tyler said wonderingly. He knew someone might come after us. He prepared us, I corrected, not just with security measures, but with values, with the tools to recognize deception and the strength to fight it. 2 weeks into the new year, I was called to Patricia's office. She had someone she wanted me to meet. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, a psychiatrist who specialized in treating victims of fraud and manipulation. I've been following your case, Dr. Chen explained. Your family's response to the trauma, particularly your ability to transform it into advocacy, is remarkable. I'm writing a book about recovery from predatory relationships. Would you consider contributing? What would that involve? Interviews about your experience, but more importantly, about the healing process. How you've managed to trust again, to move forward without becoming paralyzed by hypervigilance. I thought about the letter still framed in my apartment, Rachel's words serving as a daily reminder. I haven't moved past hypervigilance. I've learned to live with it productively. That's exactly the kind of insight I'm looking for. I agreed to participate, seeing it as another way to help others navigate similar trauma. Spring brought new challenges and joys. Tyler and Emma bought a house, a modest colonial, nothing like Rachel's dream mansion, but perfect for their growing family. The security system was extensive. Fort Knox has nothing on us, Emma joked, but there was comfort in the precautions. Mom had bad days where she didn't recognize any of us, but she always knew Maria. On good days, she helped plan the baby's nursery, suggesting colors and debating names. Nothing that starts with R, Tyler said firmly, or V, or any of her aliases. Thomas for a boy, Mom suggested. After your father. Perfect, Tyler agreed. Thomas or Sarah for a girl, family names, real ones. My first year of medical school ended with top marks and an unexpected honor. The dean asked me to speak at orientation for the incoming class. Talk about perseverance, Dean Martinez suggested, about overcoming obstacles. These students need to hear that the path isn't always straight. Standing before 200 eager faces that August, I thought about what to say. How do you explain that sometimes the biggest obstacle to your dreams isn't academic difficulty or financial hardship, but a predator who sees your ambition as an opportunity? Medicine requires vigilance, I began. You'll learn to spot symptoms others miss, to question what seems normal, to protect those who can't protect themselves. But remember, that vigilance extends beyond the hospital. There are different kinds of diseases, different forms of harm. Some wear white coats, others wear false smiles and borrowed names. Your journey here wasn't just about grades and test scores. Each of you overcame something, held on to a dream when letting go would have been easier. That persistence, that refusal to let anyone or anything steal your future. That's what will make you not just doctors, but healers. So as you begin this journey, remember, protect your dreams as fiercely as you'll one day protect your patients. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. And never ever let anyone convince you that your goals are less important than their greed. The applause was warm, but it was the emails afterward that mattered. Students sharing their own stories of obstacles, overcome dreams, nearly stolen futures reclaimed. One particularly stuck with me from a student named David. My stepfather drained my college fund for gambling. I thought my dream of medical school was over. Your family's story gave me hope. I worked 3 jobs, took out loans, and made it here. Thank you for showing me it was possible. Labor Day weekend, we gathered at the house for a different kind of celebration. Tyler and Emma's daughter had arrived 2 weeks early, healthy and perfect. Sarah Lynn Harrison, named for the grandmother she'd grow to know through stories and photographs. Mom held her granddaughter with steady hands, fully present in the moment. "She has your eyes," she told Tyler, "and your father's nose." "Let's hope she has Mackenzie's instincts," Tyler replied. "She'll need them in this world." "She'll have better," Emma said firmly. "She'll have all of us. Teaching her, protecting her, showing her how to spot the wolves in sheep's clothing." As I held my niece for the first time, I thought about the world she was entering. There would always be predators, people who saw trust as weakness and love as opportunity. But she'd grow up knowing the warning signs, understanding that vigilance and love weren't opposites, but companions. "Welcome to the family, little one," I whispered. "We're a bit battle-scarred, but we're strong, and you'll be stronger still." That evening, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat in Dad's study, now my study when I visited. Medical textbooks mixed with fraud prevention pamphlets, anatomy diagrams shared space with security system manuals. On the wall hung 3 framed items: Dad's letter, Rachel's letter, and the newspaper clipping announcing her 45-year sentence. Past, present, and future lessons in the complexity of human nature. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Another family saved another predator, exposed another victory in the ongoing war against those who weaponize trust. Thank you," the message read. "The Johnsons are safe because of your testimony. Their daughter will go to law school as planned." I smiled, adding their story to my mental tally. Rachel had stolen from 17 families. Through our advocacy and testimony, we'd now helped save 23. The math was finally tipping in our favor. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the world in temporary purity. But I knew better than to trust appearances. Beauty could hide danger. Kindness could mask cruelty. Family could harbor enemies. But knowing this didn't make me cynical. It made me careful. It made me protective. It made me exactly the kind of doctor the world needed. One who could diagnose deception as readily as disease, who could protect the vulnerable from all forms of predation. Rachel thought she was stealing my future when she attacked my medical school dreams. Instead, she'd given me a mission that would define it. Tomorrow, I'd return to classes to the careful study of human anatomy and pathology, but I'd also continue the other work, the speaking engagements, the survivor support, the quiet network of watchers who'd learned to spot the signs. We were no longer victims, we were sentinels. And we were everywhere. 2 years later, the auditorium at Johns Hopkins was packed for the annual Medical Ethics Symposium. I stood backstage adjusting my white coat, now worn with confidence earned through countless clinical rotations and one unforgettable lesson in human predation. Our next speaker, Dean Martinez announced, is someone many of you know. Mackenzie Harrison's story of protecting her family's educational trust while exposing a nationwide fraud ring has become legendary. Today, she'll discuss the intersection of medical ethics and financial crimes against vulnerable populations. Taking the podium, I looked out at an audience of medical professional students, and surprisingly, several familiar faces from our support group. Front row center sat Tyler, Emma, and 2-year-old Sarah, who waved enthusiastically at Aunt Kenzie. Beside them, Maria steadied Mom, who was having one of her increasingly rare good days. 4 years ago, I began. A woman named Rachel Matthews entered our lives. She wasn't sick, wasn't seeking medical help. She was hunting, and her preferred prey were families made vulnerable by grief, illness, or age-related cognitive decline. I clicked through slides showing statistics: elderly financial abuse, romance scams targeting widowers, medical identity theft. The numbers were staggering. As future physicians, you'll see patients at their most vulnerable. You'll witness family dynamics that seem off, financial pressures that don't add up, caregivers who appear more interested in assets than care. Your medical training teaches you to spot physical symptoms. Today, I'm here to teach you to recognize predatory behavior. The presentation detailed warning signs, isolation tactics, rapid relationship progression, unusual interest in financial details, documents signed during confusion, family members excluded from care decisions. But recognition isn't enough, I continued. We need action protocols. I outlined the system we'd help develop: a hospital-based program where social workers, financial counselors, and legal advisors work together to protect vulnerable patients. It had already prevented 12 cases of elder financial abuse at Johns Hopkins alone. The woman who targeted my family is serving 45 years in federal prison, I said, showing Rachel's mugshot one last time. But she was part of a network. They're still out there evolving their tactics, finding new vulnerabilities. As doctors, we're uniquely positioned to spot and stop them. The Q&A was intense. Young residents wanted specific protocols. Experienced physicians shared their own missed signs. A social worker described a case eerily similar to ours. But it was the last question that hit hardest. Ms. Harrison. An elderly woman in the back stood slowly. I'm Dr. Patricia Wong. 30 years ago, I lost my mother's life savings to someone like this Rachel. Back then, no one talked about it. The shame was too great. Thank you for making it acceptable to fight back. After the symposium, our family gathered for lunch at our favorite restaurant. Sarah chattered about her preschool adventures, while Tyler and Emma shared ultrasound photos of baby number 2. Another girl, Emma announced. Due in December. Name, I asked. Michelle Patricia, Tyler said, after Mom and the prosecutor who saved us. Mom smiled, understanding the honor even through her fog. Beautiful name, strong name. Speaking of strong names, Maria interjected, guess who's graduating next month? We turned to her in surprise. Nursing degree, she announced proudly. Night school for 3 years. Figured if I'm taking care of people, might as well make it official. That's wonderful, I exclaimed. What inspired you? Maria looked at Mom with deep affection. This family, seeing how you all fought for each other, protected each other, made me want to do more than just basic care, made me want to really help. Tyler raised his water glass. To Maria, from caregiver to family to nurse. We're proud of you. To full circle, I added, from needing protection to providing it. As we toasted, my phone buzzed. Patricia Hendricks, now a federal judge, had sent a news link. Major romance fraud ring dismantled. 47 arrests in multi-state operation. The article detailed how evidence from our case had spawned a 3-year investigation, ultimately taking down the largest romance fraud network in U.S. history. Rachel's former associates were falling like dominoes. 47 more families saved, Tyler calculated, plus all the future victims who will never be targeted. The math keeps getting better, I agreed. After lunch, we drove to the cemetery. Dad's headstone now had company. Fresh flowers from our weekly visits, small stones left in the Jewish tradition by grateful families we'd helped. Hi, Dad, I said, kneeling by the grave. Sarah's here to meet you. Tyler's having another daughter. Mom's hanging in there. And that trust fund you protected? It's done more than pay for medical school. It's saved dozens of families. Sarah toddled over, placing a dandelion on the headstone with toddler solemnity. "Thank you, Grandpa," she said, clearly rehearsed but heartfelt. Mom sat on the bench Tyler had installed, looking peaceful. "He knows," she said simply. "Wherever he is, he knows we're okay." That evening, I returned to my apartment to find a letter waiting. The return address was a federal prison in West Virginia. Inside, Derek Chen's careful handwriting filled 2 pages. "Mackenzie, I know I have no right to contact you, but I needed you to know I testified in the latest trial, gave them everything about the network's operations. 17 more convictions because of that testimony. I think about Tyler every day, about the friendship I destroyed for money I never even got to spend. Prison has given me time to understand what I threw away. I'm getting out in 6 months. Early release for cooperation. I won't contact any of you. I know that bridge is burned, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to make amends. I've been accepted to a program that helps fraud victims recover assets. Maybe I can undo some of the damage I helped cause. Your family's strength in fighting back changed everything, not just for the victims you saved, but for perpetrators like me who finally understood the human cost of our crimes. I'm sorry, it's not enough, but it's true, Derek." I sat with the letter for a long time, then added it to my collection. Redemption was possible even for those who'd chosen darkness. Not forgiveness. That was Tyler's choice alone, but the possibility of transformation. My phone rang. Another unknown number, another family seeking help. This one was from California, a daughter suspicious of her father's new girlfriend, seeing patterns she'd recognized from our story. "Document everything." I advise settling in for a long conversation. Trust your instincts, and remember, it's not paranoid if they're really after your family's assets. As we talked through protection strategies, I pulled up my calendar. Tomorrow morning, rounds at the hospital afternoon, clinic evening presentation to the Elder Fraud Task Force. Next week, testimony in another network member's trial. Next month, graduation from medical school, finally crossing the stage Dad had dreamed of seeing. The young woman in California was crying now, relief mixing with validation. Everyone said I was jealous that I couldn't handle my dad moving on, but something felt wrong. "Something was wrong," I assured her, "and you're brave for seeing it. Now let's make sure your father is protected." After we hung up, I looked around my apartment. Medical textbooks competed for space with fraud prevention guides. My walls held degrees and certifications alongside newspaper clippings of successful prosecutions. 2 paths that had merged into one purpose. Rachel had been right about one thing in her final letter. We both fought for our families. The difference was in the definition. Her family was a network of predators bound by greed and mutual exploitation. Mine was ever expanding. Blood relatives, chosen family like Maria, survivors who'd become advocates, strangers who needed protection. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Mom's condition would continue declining, though we'd treasure every clear moment. Tyler would balance fatherhood with his work in cybersecurity, protecting other families from digital predators. Maria would graduate and begin her nursing career, bringing hard-won wisdom to patient care. And I would graduate from medical school, the trust fund having served its purpose exactly as Dad intended. But the education I'd received extended far beyond anatomy and pathology. I'd learned that healing required more than medical knowledge. It demanded vigilance, courage, and the willingness to stand between predators and prey. 4 years after Rachel's text claiming she'd stolen my future, I stood on the brink of beginning it. Not just as a doctor, but as a guardian. Not just with a stethoscope, but with the hard-won knowledge of how to spot wolves among sheep. The trust fund had protected my education. The education would protect countless others. Dad's investment had paid dividends he'd never imagined. Full circle indeed. Graduation day at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine dawned bright and clear. May sunshine streamed through my apartment windows as I carefully arranged my cap and gown, the moment feeling both momentous and surreal. 4 years since Rachel's attack. 4 years of fighting, healing, and transforming trauma into purpose. Today, it all culminated in a ceremony Dad had dreamed of witnessing. "Ready, Dr. Harrison?" Maria asked from my doorway, wearing her own cap and gown from her nursing program graduation the week before. "Not doctor yet," I corrected, but smiled at the title. "You've been a doctor since the day you diagnosed that woman's intentions," she said firmly. "Today just makes it official." The auditorium buzzed with families and pride. Our section was easy to spot. Tyler bouncing baby Michelle while trying to keep Sarah from climbing the seats, Emma capturing everything on video, and Mom in her wheelchair having a beautifully clear morning. "There's our doctor," Mom called out when she saw me loud enough for 3 rows to hear. No one minded. The joy in her voice was infectious. As names were called and new physicians crossed the stage, I thought about the journey, not just the academics, though anatomy, pathology, and clinical rotations had challenged me in ways I'd never imagined. But the parallel education in human nature, in recognizing predation, in protecting the vulnerable. Mackenzie Elizabeth Harrison. I walked across that stage, carrying more than just myself. I carried Dad's dreams, Mom's sacrifices, Tyler's support, and the hopes of every family we'd helped protect. The diploma felt heavier for it, weighted with responsibility and purpose. Dean Martinez shook my hand with particular warmth. "Congratulations, Dr. Harrison. Your residency program is lucky to have you." I'd matched at Johns Hopkins for internal medicine with a focus on geriatrics, surprising no one who knew my history. We're better to protect vulnerable elderly patients than from inside the system. After the ceremony, we gathered for pictures. 4 generations if you counted Dad's presence in spirit. His photo tucked in Mom's lap, his lessons lived out in our lives. Speech," Tyler called out as we sat for our celebration dinner. "Come on, Dr. Harrison, inspire us?" I stood looking at each face around the table, my family by blood, Maria, who'd become family by choice, Emma, who'd helped Tyler heal the babies, who'd grow up knowing their worth couldn't be stolen. "Oh, 4 years ago, someone tried to steal this moment," I began. "She thought our family's treasure was money. She never understood it was each other. Dad saved for my education, yes, but he also taught us to protect what matters. When tested, we didn't just guard the trust fund. We guarded each other. We turned violation into vigilance trauma, into teaching attack, into advocacy." I raised my glass. "To everyone who fights back against predators, to families who refuse to be victims, to the helpers who spot the signs, and to Dad who gave us more than money. He gave us the tools to protect it." "To Dad," everyone echoed. "To resilience," Tyler added. "To justice," Maria contributed. "Or to family," Mom said clearly, raising her water glass with steady hands. Later, as we walked through the inner harbor, Sarah's hand in mine and baby Michelle sleeping in her stroller, Tyler asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Any regrets about how it all happened?" I thought carefully. "I regret that evil people exist. I regret what you went through. I regret Mom's confusion being exploited." I paused. "But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret the families we've saved. And I don't regret becoming someone who can spot predators before they strike." "The price of wisdom," he mused. "The price of protecting others," I corrected. That evening, alone in my apartment, I opened my laptop to write one final letter. Not to Rachel, she'd occupied enough of our thoughts, but to the woman I'd become through surviving her. "Dear future self," I typed, "today you became a doctor. Not just any doctor, one who understands that illness comes in many forms. Some patients will need medication, others surgery, but some will need protection from those who see vulnerability as opportunity." Never forget why you chose geriatrics. Never ignore the signs you've learned to recognize. Never let bureaucracy or fatigue blind you to predation. But also remember, not everyone is hunting. Most people are good, kind, genuinely helpful. Don't let hypervigilance steal your ability to trust. Don't let one predator's actions poison every relationship. Balance wisdom with warmth. Protect without paranoia. Heal bodies while guarding spirits. And always, always remember Dad's trust fund gave you education. Rachel's attack gave you purpose. Combined, they made you a guardian in healer's clothing. Use both gifts wisely. I saved the letter knowing I'd need to read it on difficult days ahead. Residency would be grueling. Watching elderly patients struggle with dignity and autonomy would be heartbreaking. Spotting financial abuse and having to navigate legal systems would be frustrating. But I was ready. A text arrived from Patricia, now Judge Hendricks. Congratulations, doctor. FYI, Rachel's latest appeal denied. She's also been charged in 2 cold cases from Nevada. She'll die in prison. I felt no joy at this news, just grim satisfaction. Justice served, future victims protected. Another text, this from a number I didn't recognize. Dr. Harrison, my name is Linda Zhao. You helped my mother 2 years ago when her boyfriend was draining her accounts. Because of your advice, we saved her house and her dignity. I just wanted you to know. I started law school this fall focusing on elder law. Your family's story inspired me to protect others too. The ripples keep spreading. Thank you. I smiled, adding Linda to my mental list of lives changed. The mathematics of good had long surpassed Rachel's evil. One predator had attacked us. In response, we'd created an army of protectors. Sitting by my window, watching Baltimore settle into evening, I thought about tomorrow. First day of residency. White coat, crisp stethoscope-ready knowledge earned through years of study. But I'd carry more than medical tools. I'd carry the knowledge that evil sometimes smiles, that family can harbor enemies, that trust must be earned and verified. I'd carry the stories of survivors, the gratitude of protected families, the weight of those still vulnerable. Most importantly, I'd carry the lesson that had defined these 4 years. When predators strike at what you love, you don't just defend. You transform defense into offense. You don't just survive, you ensure others will too. Rachel had texted me claiming victory. You'll never be a doctor now. Tomorrow, I'd walk into Johns Hopkins Hospital wearing the white coat she'd tried to steal. I'd treat patients with hands that had gathered evidence. I'd protect the vulnerable with eyes trained to spot deception. I'd honor my father's gift by multiplying its impact beyond his wildest dreams. The trust fund had made me a doctor. Rachel's attack had made me a guardian. Together, they'd created something more powerful than either intended. A healer who could spot predators, a protector with medical credentials, a voice for those too confused or frightened to speak. To everyone watching, wondering if fighting back is worth it, if standing up to predators makes a difference, if protecting your family's future matters. It does. It is. We are. From one survivor to another, guard what you love, trust your instincts, and never let anyone steal your dreams. The predators are out there calculating and cruel, but so are we. The guardians, the protectors, the ones who refuse to be prey. And we're winning. One family, one future, one exposed predator at a time. Thank you for following our journey. If it helps even one family spot the warning signs, if it gives even one person the courage to fight back, then sharing our pain has been worth it. Stay vigilant, stay strong, and remember, sometimes the greatest victory isn't just keeping what's yours, but using the battle scars to protect others. With love and determination, Dr. Mackenzie Harrison. P.S. To those still fighting their own Rachels, document everything. Trust your instincts, seek help early, and know that you're not alone. We survived. You will too. Now, I have a question for all of you. Have you ever encountered someone who made you uneasy, whose interest in your family seemed too calculated? What made you suspicious, and what did you do about it? Share your stories in the comments. Your experience might be the warning sign someone else needs to see. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to help spread awareness about these predators and the families who fight back. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they're not paranoid. They're protective. Thank you for listening to our story. May your families stay safe, your instincts stay sharp, and your futures remain your own. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep fighting the good fight.